Sean, he mentioned the senior match. We heard the Dublin supporters start to sing Cocktails and Muscles and so forth during that minor game. I'm sure most people in Meath, despite the great battles you've had down through the years, will certainly not begrudge Dublin if they won this one.
Oh, not at all. In fact, I'd love to see it. It was interesting when Peter Canavan, when the lads had been interviewed, the Tyrone supporters beforehand, they were calling Peter Canavan God. And I heard this on the way in, and they were saying, you know, that he can walk on water. And there was a smart dub going by and saying, yeah, he can't swim. It'll be a great occasion. Of course, you'd like to see Dublin. They've tried so hard, they've battled so hard over the last few years, but at the same time, they know themselves that, you know, you have to earn it on the day, and that's what we've done.
I've been talking to Art McCrory during the week and also to Eugene McKenna, and they were making the point that they want to win as badly as Dublin do. They're as hungry for an All-Ireland as Dublin. Everybody's talking about Dublin. They want it as well, Martin.
Yeah, I think definitely, you know, the hunger is going to be there on both sides. I think that Tyrone really, you know, the Donegal Derry Down thing, and they really believe that they're as good, which they are. And they know if they go back to the end on one, they've been classed as failures and Ulster. So they're really going to be very hungry. But it's interesting to see Jason Charlotte come in there in the haircut. It's like the Gaza thing. Every Dublin, young in Dublin have this haircut now, things go right today for him. But it's the makings of a great match, and it's great. Two great bunches of borders, and the day is great, and so we have a great match. And we need a good match. And I know that you need Dublin to win, and people believe Tyrone could have won. So it's down to whatever team. The first 20 minutes could be very, very important. Who settles early, you know.
I have no doubt that Tyrone will take an awful lot of inspiration for what Donegal did in 1992, because the situations are very, very similar. You played the Connacht champions in the semi-final. It wasn't maybe a great match on that particular occasion. Underdogs on the big day, and you turned it all on its head.
Yeah, I think that you know, this Tyrone team are capable of playing a lot better than they did against Galway, and they know themselves they're going to have to do that. I think Adrian Cushner is a big loss to them.
Yes.
Now, he definitely in the Ulster final and the game against Derry and in the All-Ireland semi-final, he turned the matches when he came on. He's a big loss. Now, we had the same as Martin Shovlin in '92, so the whole thing seems to be going the same way. I think I'm very disappointed for Adrian. He's a great player, and you know, this way you really show whether you're a good player or not, and he would have the capability of doing that. So I'm very disappointed in him, but I know the lads investing in him will say for his sake, you know, they'll go out there and they'll do more.
Men of Cavan. And then came those pulsating moments. Paddy Meegan races down the wing, dodges his way through, a hard shot towards the goal. Morris saves, but Bill Hickley is in, and the ball is in the net for a goal that puts Meath on the highway to football out. The senior teams Kerry, the title holders and champions of Munster, and Meath, the holders of the Leinster crown. Tries to open up a movement, but it's spoiled before Meath's Matty MacDonald solos his way through to a brilliant point.
On himself.
And then Patsy McGearty, he was the goalkeeper in '54. The full back line in both finals, first Micheál O'Brien, then Paddy O'Brien, and Kevin McConnell. The half-backs were Seamus Heary, Kevin Lenihan, Paddy Dixon, Jimmy Riley, Chris Dohan, and Ned Jernan. One of the midfielders was Tom O'Brien. The right half forward in 1949 was Frankie Byrne. The right full forward in both years was Paddy Meegan. And the full forward in '49 was Bill Halpenny. Full forward in '54, Tom Moriarty. And also on the two panels were Charlie Smith, Des Taff, Johnny Bashford, who's come over from England, and John Clark has travelled from America. Billy Radigan, Jerry Smith, Bernard Flanagan, Tom Duff, John Meehan, Tommy Farley, Jim Meehan, Patsy Ratty, Larry O'Brien, Paddy Brady, Paddy Dunn, Matty McGuire, Richie Meade, and Jim Farrell is represented by his son John. Jim Carney, who's indisposed, is represented by his son Dermot. Paddy Carlin, also indisposed, is represented by his son Dennis. The late Paddy Cullen is represented by his son Pat. The late Matty MacDonald represented by his son Martin. The late Larry McGuinness represented by his son Joe. The late Kevin Smith represented by his son Pat. And the late Micheál Grace represented by his son Noel. So once again, ladies and gentlemen, let's acclaim the men who won the championships in 1949 and 54.
Jubilee teams here at Croke Park this afternoon, the Meath teams of 1949 and 1954. Just a little over 20 minutes to the throw-in the senior final of 1995. We'll pick up the story again after this commercial break.
Best position. I think that Paddy Moran will probably pick up Peter Canavan as well. I'll say they're going to leave him there. Their half-back line really has been the strong point of the team. And I remember we playing them in '92. The three of them were always for attacking and left spaces behind. They've stopped doing that really, and Keith Barr doesn't actually nearly go past the middle of the field. So the stronger that unit there is stronger now than they were then, and that really is maybe the place where if Dublin won the match, they could win it from there.
Dermot Deasy, of course, as we know, Sean, is out of the full back line. Now, with no insult at all to Dermot Deasy, but the line is not necessarily weakened by Kieran Walsh coming in, because Kieran's a good, steady player. Yeah, he's a good, steady player, but I think that from the way things went the last day, that Kieran Walsh probably would have been on the team anyhow. But I would count, over the last 4 years, every football was going to take Dermot Deasy apart. But nobody has ever done it. Nobody ever does it because he's one of those players, he's always in front of you. But Kieran has a lot of experience. It's a big day for him. I'm delighted because of his injury last year that he's back out there again. And it'll be a major day for him. They say that he possibly will take up the full-back position on Peter Canavan. Well, it'll be his hands full. There you can see the pictures tell their own story of the kind of welcome that Tyrone got, and well, no matter how many times you come to Croke Park on big match day, that moment where the teams run out on the field still manages to put the hair standing on the back of your neck. But I have to say, Martin McHugh, of all of the big welcomes in recent years that I remember, the welcome that greeted you in 1992 from your supporters stands out in my mind.
Yeah, well, it's something that you know, you don't believe it. They run out onto Croke Park, and the other thing that you have to do, and that your own team have to do now, they get out to it and the adrenaline's flying in their body, but they have to settle themselves back down now and start concentrating on the game, and that's the important thing. A match in All-Ireland final can bypass you before you ever think you're in it, so it's important for them that they settle them down. But it's a great occasion to run out there, but I think the most time a player enjoys that is when he watches on video later on. He should just concentrate on the, you know, and get himself settled back down.
All right, Martin, Tony O'Donoghue, Marty Morrissey have been our reporters here in Croke Park today. A little bit of team news coming up right now.
Thank you, Michael. Well, miracles can happen at Croke Park. Adrian Push, we were told, is out of this game. He has stripped and will be on the substitutes bench. 10 minutes perhaps is all he's needed for. We don't know. I was asked whether his fitness had failed or not. I was told he was disappointed with his fitness. He could be on for 10 minutes. Marty.
Thank you, Tony. Well, in contrast, the Dublin team were very relaxed in the dressing room. They feel confident. It's experience now, they say. And the big news, as I said earlier, is that Kieran Walsh will take on Peter Canavan for the All-Ireland football final.
Right, Marty and Tony, thank you for that. Well, two interesting pieces of news there. First of all, let's go back to Adrian Cushmorchin. What do you make of that?
Well, I think that's definitely good news for Tyrone. The thing I was really worried about thinking about, I really thought they should have started both McGlynn and Adrian Cush, because I think that what they're doing is, if they lose two other players in the field now, especially two backs get injured, they can't actually only play one of them. So they're in a situation where they're playing, they're going to have to use the substitutions, you know, and you could end up getting stuck like that there. I believe you picked your team the way you feel it, but the Tyrone men feel that Adrian Cush especially is better coming into the match. But it's very, very good news. It's very, very good news for Tyrone.
Peter Canavan, we just saw going through the picture there, warming up, top scorer on the Tyrone team. Second highest scorer, Matthew McLean, who of course is in the subs.
Yeah, that's an interesting one, you know. Myself personally, I rate Matty McGlynn very highly, and I thought if I was manager, I don't know, start them, but as I say, the Tyrone men know that themselves. But I think that sometimes in All-Ireland finals, people you most expect to turn it on, somebody else comes out of the blue and does it. So Tyrone hopefully have somebody else there that could, obviously you don't expect to do it well in the day. But I think there's a lot of pressure on Peter Canavan. It's interesting to note that Kieran Walsh is picking him up. I thought maybe Paddy Moran would, but maybe they feel that Kieran Walsh is a better man-to-man mark. It's going to be an interesting tussle. Kieran hasn't played a lot of football at full-back for Dublin. He played most of it in the corner. So it's going to be, but it depends totally on the ball that Tyrone get into. And the other interesting thing is that their kickouts, Finbar McConnell takes the kickouts, and they normally switch Kieran Clark across, pull the two midfielders and get him across the field, and they'll be using that tactic of say today to upset the Dublin, where he actually done it against us, interchanged across, and they played the ball kind of in front of him and the other side away from himself.
For the afternoon, Ger Canning.
About 7 minutes to go before the start of the 106th All-Ireland football final. And President Robinson, accompanied by GAA President Jack Boothman, coming across to have the traditional introduction to the two finalists, starting with Dublin and their captain, of course, John O'Leary. This first ever final between Dublin and Tyrone. Indeed, they've only clashed once previously at any stage in the championship, and that was in 1984 in the semi-final. And among those playing that day were John O'Leary and Barney Rock for Dublin, and Eugene McKenna and Frank McGuigan played for Tyrone. Ryan Steins there being introduced, Jim Gavin, Paul Clark, who was practicing his free kicks just in case he should be called upon in the event of the recurrence of an injury to Charlie Redmond, left to picture, talking to Jack Boothman, Jason Sherlock and Mick Galvin completing the introductions. And then the officials this afternoon, referee is Paddy Russell from County Tipperary, and his linesman Willie O'Mahon here from Limerick, and the other linesman is Francis Finan from Sligo. So now Kieran Corr introducing his men, starting with the tall goalkeeper Finbar McConnell. Must be one of the biggest goalkeepers ever, I suppose, to play in an All-Ireland final. 6'4.5" statistics. And then running down through the list, Faye Devlin and Ronan McGarity, the half-back line there of Seamus McCallan and Sean McLaughlin. That's Fergal Logan in midfield, alongside the redhead Jody Gormley. And then the other is Pascal Canavan, Kieran Loughran, and then Dinky McBride, Peter Canavan, Peter the Great, they're calling him up in Tyrone, and completing the lineup, Stephen Lawn. So a wonderful sense of anticipation once again. So time to check on the two teams, and for Dublin it's a team with a largely familiar ring about it. The main worry, of course, in the full back line, Dermot Deasy missing the match because of injury. Paddy Moore named at full back with Kieran Walsh and Keith Galvin for company, although as we heard there it may well be that Kieran Walsh will step into the centre to mark Peter Canavan. As usual, Charlie Redmond wears number 13 but will play top of the left, while further interchange is expected between Paul Clark and Desi Farrell on that half-forward line. So the beginning of the parade, a proud moment for both teams. Art McCrory and Eugene McKenna, the joint managers, resist the temptation to make any changes, so it's as you were from the Ulster final and indeed the All-Ireland semi. Fergal Logan continuing his partnership in midfield with Jody Gormley, while Kieran Loughlin remains at wing forward and Stephen Lawn confirmed at top of the left. The Lawns are twins, the Canavans brothers, while the Devlins are just related in sport, and a little quest for All-Ireland medals as well. The Canal End belongs to the fans from Tyrone, but if you look right around the ground here, they are very, very well supported. Hard to say whether they outnumber the Dubs, but they certainly fairly well burst the decibel levels when they made that entry about 5 minutes ago. Tyrone, of course, anxious to maintain Ulster's dominance, anxious to bring the Sam Maguire Cup back north for the 5th successive year and continue Dublin's tale of woe. The colour, the flags, the banners have been all over Ulster for the last couple of weeks, all over Tyrone in particular, but they're getting support from all over the province. And the fans, as you can see and can gather, have travelled in tremendous numbers. What down Donegal, Derry and down for a second time have achieved in the 90s, this Tyrone side certainly wants to emulate. Alongside me for commentary this afternoon, I've got Nico Dwyer. Nick, it's a wonderfully colourful occasion. Can the occasion, however, get to Tyrone? The Dubs have been here before, as we know only too well.
Yeah, it's a wonderful occasion. I think Tyrone must have the biggest support I've ever seen here at Croke Park. Where they got all the tickets, it's hard to say. But Tyrone are a very, very young side, and I think they're going to conquer themselves here today. But this Dublin team have steeled through championship over the past 3 years. I think they are fitter and stronger this year than I have seen them over the past 4 or 5 years. Tyrone are a team, I think they're on the way up, at a very young side. I think they will win an All-Ireland within the next few years, but I don't think this will be their year. I think Dublin are the team, I think, that are favourites today, and I think they could win this one by 4 or 5 points.
Of course, Art McCrory is on record of saying Dublin deserve to win the All-Ireland. Mind you, he qualified it by saying next year.
But I think the whole country have been saying that Dublin need this final. But what about Tyrone? They never won an All-Ireland title in their lives, so it's a big day for them. But Cush is going to be a big loss from Tyrone today. I think, you know, he should have been on the starting line if he was to be selected, but now that he's injured, he's going to be an awful loss. And McLennan as well as another player, I think, that I would have played if I was in charge of Tyrone. But it'll be interesting to see how it unfolds, and let's hope it'll be a good game, John.
I'm really not sure how fit Adrian Cush is at all. He picked up the injury on Monday night last. There were genuine concerns at that stage that he had broken his ankle. He was barely able to walk all week long, and whether or not he can make a contribution today, I really have a doubt, but we'll have to wait and see. People watching these pictures all over the world, as you heard earlier. I know that Gerard Gregg and Joan Connolly are watching it in the Cayman Islands. It's 9 a.m. on Sunday morning, I believe, there. Special wishes also to a man in Beaumont Hospital who's Jerry Keegan, a former Leitrim footballer. Hello to you, Jerry. Hope you enjoy the match. The man they've all been talking about, of course, in the build-up, Jason Sherlock. And I think the Dublin management were beginning to worry a little bit more about the hype getting to Jason rather than the injury that Charlie Redmond is said to have had over the past few days.
I don't think the hype will matter that much. It won't affect Jason Sherlock. He's that type of young fella.
He's a very easygoing character, of course.
No doubt.
So, as we have learned, Tyrone won the toss, and they will play from right to left in the first half. John O'Leary with words for his team, playing today in his 66th championship match. I think the message is fairly clear. We've lost enough. It's time we won. I think Charlie was in there talking as well. Charlie Redmond, centre of picture. Well, you remember in the hurling final 2 weeks ago, there was a minute's silence here in memory of the great famine, which of course afflicted our nation 150 years ago, when 1 million people died of starvation, of disease. Another 1 million left our shores. Our population at that stage, around about 1841, stood at 8 million, maybe a little over by the time of the famine, which was 1845. And of course, you all know, at the beginning of this century, our population was down from 8 million to 4. It certainly was a watershed in the history of Ireland. A deafening ovation from both sets of supporters. The Westmeath fans sharing Hell 16 with the Dubs this afternoon on a wonderful day for them, winning the minor title by 2 points against Derry. And as we've heard already, it's Kieran Walsh who takes up the marking duties on Peter Canavan, Paddy Moore on Dinky McBride, and that makes a bit of sense because they have similar height, around about 6'1", 6'2". So referee Paddy Russell poised to start this final. Desi Farrell goes into centre half forward. That's no great surprise. So now who will it be? Dublin looking for their 22nd All-Ireland title. Tyrone looking for a first. Paul Beelan stumbling. Pascal Canavan's in straight away. And the referee signalling that it's going to be a Dublin free. Dublin with a light breeze at their backs for the first 35 minutes. Pumped in well. And Finbar McConnell opting to let that one go harmlessly wide. McConnell beaten just once in the championship so far this season. Indeed, he's only conceded 2 goals, I think, in the last 14 matches. So a perfect afternoon for what we hope will be a great match. Dropped into midfield, dropped down by Jody Gormley. And again, the referee signals that it's going to be a Dublin free. Stein's taking it. A couple of Tyrone players trying to make it theirs. Chris Lawn knocking it outside. Fergal Logan. What will that be their tactics at midfield as we watch Sean McLaughlin in an advanced position on towards Dinky McBride. Kieran, it says, gets by Paddy Moran. Then Moran going back. Challenged strongly there by Stephen Lawn. And a free in. Chance here for Tyrone to take the lead.
No doubt, and it's only just started, but Tyrone look very, very sharp, even though it's very, very early in the game.
Yes, just one attack, and already they're causing problems now. Peter Canavan here opting to kick it from the hands. He missed a few in the semi-final with that same tactic, but this one is absolutely perfect. So that free by Peter Canavan gives the Ulster champions the lead.
And that's the free that will settle Peter as well now for the rest of the game. And this man is an excellent player, and he's the one player that could really win it for Tyrone if it's to be won by them.
Sun into the eyes of John O'Leary. Third successive year to captain the team. Goes very short on this occasion to Keith Galvin. A bit of rain overnight, hence the ground is still rather slippery. Good block down there. The block by Stephen Lawn. Lawn tends to roam quite a bit. I know there are those in Tyrone who would wish him to be much more in an advanced position. Here's Deegan. Well caught in the air by Seamus McCallan. That will settle him down very well. Driven left-footed deep into his inside forward line. Comes off the falling body there of Paddy Moran. In by Kieran Loughran. And early indications here that the Tyrone forwards, given quality ball, can cause problems in there for the Dublin defence. Stephen Lawn winning the free. Once again, they opt to bring Peter Canavan out. Free just inside the 45-metre line. Out of my way, he says to Keith Galvin. Getting to know one another fairly early on. Strikes me that it would suit Keith Galvin if Stephen Lawn does begin to wander, because Galvin will be quite happy to follow him on his travels. Here's Canavan. Curls in. Delightfully over the bar. 2 points for Tyrone, 2 points for Peter Canavan. They've made a green start.
Unquestionably, this man Canavan is the man that can do it. But Dubliners have started again today like they did against Cork. You know, there don't seem to be any urgency in their play at the moment. So I suppose it's early days yet, but they'd want to be settling down pretty quickly.
Switch of direction by John O'Leary. Ooh, Fergal Logan hauls down Paul Beelan. Beelan from the Ballyboden St Enda's club. Kicking it forward towards Charlie Redmond. Runs on to Jason Sherlock. First taste of the action. Charlie Redmond appealing over there. But Tyrone get the decision kicked in field by Paul Devlin. Ronan McGarity playing it to the centre to Seamus McCallan. Fergal Logan once again, time and again he's been getting on the ball and hasn't been closed down quickly enough by Dublin. Paddy Moore unbeaten. It's Stephen Lawn. Nicely back here to Fergal Logan once more. Back from Dinky McBride to Logan. Jim Gavin going back, goal side, prods it away. Comes to Canavan, Peter Canavan. His brother just alongside him. Here's Jody Gormley. That's a great start for Tyrone, and Jody Gormley picks over their third point. Well, he's only scored 2 points in the entire championship so far. Well, this was an excellent point set up by Peter the Great, as they call him, and Jody Gormley is a student at the University of Ulster, Jordanstown, where he's student union president, presides here. The Dubs followers, whatever about the team, I think are shell-shocked. Here's Gormley again. They've certainly won midfield in these opening minutes, but it's early days yet. Stephen Lawn leaping in the air there with Keith Galvin. Comes down to Paul Beelan. Free to Dublin. You get the feeling that Dublin are waiting for it to happen for them, when in fact they've got to go and make it happen.
Tyrone are so sharp, it's unbelievable. If they keep this up, I tell you, they're going to make it very, very hot for Dublin. Dublin are just not coming into the game at all.
Much of the Steve Collins tactics against Chris Eubank. Keith Barr kicking. And that will steady down the nerves a bit. A wonderful free kicked over in excellent fashion by Keith Barr. Hits a dead ball really well.
Yeah, there's a strong wind as well, and I think it seems to be favouring Dublin at this early stage, sir.
If anybody can rally the team, it's surely Barr from Erin's Isle. Fisted down again by Paul Beelan to another Paul. Paul Clark to Jason Sherlock against Chris Lawn. Sherlock stealing in well. Good supply of ball inside to Mick Galvin. Doesn't curl sufficiently, however. Dublin's second wide.
Yeah, that was the terrible wide by Mick Galvin. He had two players inside him. If you just notice here now, this was well created by Jason Sherlock. He let it off well. And Galvin kicked, and he had two players inside him, which I think he should have given the ball to. And if he did, I think Dublin would have had another point.
As it is, two between them. Good distribution there by Jason Sherlock, the other side of his game. They're a blinding pace. Two jumping with one, but the Dub breaks it down to Desi Farrell. Mick Deegan now. Knocked in. Perhaps into the space where Jason Sherlock normally takes up position. This time it's Charlie Redmond. Lands on the ground and gets absolutely nothing for his troubles. One way or the other, it's surely the day of reckoning for Dublin in particular, perhaps Deliverance Day. Trailing by 2 points. Knocked forward here by Jim Gavin, does such useful work. And that's a free kick for Dublin. Faye Devlin's tackle there goes punished by the referee, Paddy Russell.
Yeah, Dublin are bringing Jason Sherlock more into the game today. They're playing the ball low into him today, and I think that's going to be a very good gambit. That's something they didn't do in other games. They were lofting the ball in quite a lot, but today they're playing it low, and that will suit Jason.
Dublin have an injured player. It's Keith Galvin. Play is going to continue with this free kick, however. Galvin limps back. A chance for Charlie Redmond to test the kicking skills. Not much hint of a thigh strain there. Over it sailed, and Charlie puts just the minimum between the teams.
This could be a contest today between Charlie Redmond and Peter Canavan.
Yes, 3 of the 5 points so far scored from place balls. Coming forward there and making it his was Keith Barr. Up quickly to take it towards Jason Sherlock. certainly causing a few early headaches for Chris Lawn. Jim Gavin, Sherlock again, fouled, free to Dublin. Jason thought about taking it quickly there. And the older heads in the team, I think, told him just take it easy, plenty of time.
There's a lot more workman like today, isn't he? He's going for everything today, and that's a big change in his play. The last day he was waiting for things to happen. Today he's making it happen.
Must be on a productivity deal. Paul Clark taking over the free taking. And this is from just inside the 45-metre line. Just a variation on a theme, but over it goes, and the sides are level, and the Dubs have made a full recovery. 3 points apiece then after 10 minutes. Every possible vantage point is taken up this afternoon. 65,000 people here at Croke Park. Brian Steins touches it down towards Jim Gavin and picked up instead by Stephen Lawn. Good block here by Keith Galvin. Now where's the support coming from Brian Steins? Charlie Redmond tries to get away. Really bottled up well by the Tyrone defenders. Free to Dublin, however, taken very quickly, spotting Mick Deegan unmarked momentarily. Unable to give the Dubs the lead, however.
I think that was a very, very bad decision by Charlie Redmond there. He had a free 45 yards out, and Charlie's deadly accurate from there, and he generally puts them over. I think he should have kicked that one from the ground.
Paul Whelan breaks it down. A lot of broken, spoiled play at midfield. Fergal Logan once again, the shoulder from Whelan. And the referee says not fairly executed. Here's Seamus McCallum. Dropped into the corner, but the race won over there by Paddy Moore. Took his eye off the ball. But it's Moore against Stinky McBride in the marking stakes. Here's Keith Galvin. So possession back with Tyrone. A tame enough opening to this match. Stephen Conway there in the background, a link with the team that won the Ulster Championship back in 1989. Fergal Logan once again. Back here it comes towards the raiding Ronan McGarrity. Remember the goal he set up against Galway in the semi-final for Peter Canavan. McLaughlin shot inside, oh, missed. John O'Leary has it. But nervous moments there. Paddy Moran has fumbled a couple of chances that should have been blocked easily. Jim Gavin belting it forward. Picked up by Chris Lawn, however. Right across the field. Now Pascal Canavan. It's Jody Gormley who goes to ground, and the referee gives the decision his way. The foul by Paul Clark. And this is where Paddy Moore indicated a fair hint of nerves in there for the second time in this match, and John O'Leary had to be very, very sharp. Kieran Walsh to Keith Barr. Now Paul Curran. And this is one thing Tyrone will have to guard against, allowing Curran make forays out of defence and set up chances. Paul Clark now. Point from the free already to his credit. Nicely forward to Mick Galvin. Can he make it 1 out of 2? Desi Farrell unable to take it down. Instead it's Seamus McCallum. He's settled down really well, McCallum. Some holding by Jody Gormley. And the referee wants the free taken from the correct position as play continue there, and Pat O'Neill making his point. Both managers indeed parading up and down the far sideline.
Yeah, I'm amazed with Dublin how they're kicking all these frees off the hand there. You know, when all those frees are on to be scored from the ground. Keith Barris coming up now and he's having a go at it.
Well, they were slow to settle, as we know, against Cork, and then showed a maturity. Keith Barr across towards Desi Farrell. Desi against Faye Devlin. That's an awkward angle, but he makes very little of it. Des Farrell gets his first point, and Dublin take the lead for the first time.
That was a marvellous ball from Keith Barr into Desi Farrell, and Farrell is one of the best forwards in the game, I think, at the present time, and that was a marvellous score from Desi Farrell. Yeah, great ball in here, and Desi fetched it well, pretended to go right, and then slammed it over with his left leg. Marvellous score.
Yes, tremendous accuracy. Back at midfield, it's Dublin beginning to take over. Paul Curran knocking it down the line towards Charlie Redmond. Charlie challenged by Paul Devlin. Charlie having the beating, however, of the corner back. Back to Paul Clark. And this time the angle proving just too much for him. Dublin with 5 wide so far, Tyrone without a wide. And just a point in it. McCrory has had a busy weekend, was at Shelburne Park watching the Dogs last night and enjoyed it, but the real concentration of course is on this afternoon's action. Finbar McConnell's kick out. Maybe that wind is a little stronger than we even think from up here. Normally he belts it right down the middle. Perhaps the tactic also of course is to take it out of that midfield area where Beelan and Steins are so assertive. Paul Beelan's kick, dropped in dangerously. Protest there from Sean McLaughlin that he was tumbled over. So Dublin making a lot of chances, missing quite a few as well.
I think Dublin should use Desi Farrell more and give him the ball quickly, because he's the one player that can kick it over from any angle.
Desi being marked by Seamus McCallan. Ball comes down here towards Kieran Corr. With a quiet opening to this match. Now Paul Clark. Lovely ball, loved inside there. And across came Paul Devlin. Charlie Redmond trying to pick it up. Redmond advancing. Back it goes to Jason Sherlock. It's gone wide. Protest, and it should perhaps be a 45. That was close. It was a wonderful ball through the centre initially to set it all up with Jason Sherlock and Charlie Redmond in there.
Yes, a great ball from Charlie Redmond here, but Sherlock, in fairness to him, he nearly got that one as well. The first time, and had a right go, and you know, with a little bit of luck it could have come into the corner of the net.
He takes a very high percentage of those chances in front of goal. Kieran Corr, that's a lovely fetch, but he's had to come to midfield to get more into the game, towards Peter Canavan. Brilliant in the opening minutes, but now we need to see a little bit more of him. He's looking for quality ball out of midfield. Tyrone trying to win back that battle of midfield. They dominated the opening 5 minutes.
I think we could see Paddy Moore being switched on to Canavan soon. I don't think Kieran Walsh has got the pace to shadow this man.
Well, Tyrone have not scored now for 13 minutes. This to try and tie up the match at 4 points apiece. Peter Canavan's kick curls in delightfully once more. Teams level for the second time in this final. That's a 3rd point for Peter Canavan.
No doubt he's had an outstanding year for Tyrone. He has carried them right through Ulster, and he's brought them to the final. You know, if he keeps on playing the way he is today, he could take them and maybe take the Sam back to the north.
Well, he needs good ball inside, and also I think he needs a bit more support from Kieran McBride in particular. Keith Galvin. Players coming in support. McDeegan knocking it forward sufficiently as far as Paul Beelan. But look at the number of Tyrone players in there anxiously to close down space, and it's Pascal Canavan who takes it away, dragged down by Keith Barr, who made absolutely no effort whatsoever to get in a decent challenge. Tyrone coming strongly again with Stephen Long. Long on the ground, play continues. Keith Galvin to Paddy Moran. Again, it's Tyrone players outnumbering the lone doubler. It was Desi Farrell 4-1. Fergal Logan. Jody Gormley inside towards Kieran McBride. That's the ball run away from him. That's enough. And the Dubs come forward through Paul Curran. Desi Farrell once again. Farrell having a quick look up to see who's making the darting run forward. It's Charlie Redmond on towards Mick Galvin. There's 2 men in that inside forward line right now. To his right he's got Jason Sherlock. Back here is Paul Curran. Once again Charlie Redmond. Well, nobody in space there for him. Poor clearance there between goalkeeper and the full back. And Chris Lawn, I think, having a quick word with McConnell. Waste of possession, really.
Yes, it was a pretty hefty challenge all right there from the Tyrone back. Paul Clark is, or Desi Farrell, he could score this one, all right, Joe.
So Farrell kicking in, and kicking wonderfully over the bar. A second point for Desi Farrell. Dublin lead by a point once again.
Yes, as I said earlier on, Desi is really on his game today, and I think Dublin should be trying to find him. And that was a marvellous score right from the sideline.
Well, I think when Tyrone look back on that last piece of action, they'll wonder about the pass from McConnell to Chris Lawn that, of course, effectively resulted in that free. Brian Steins. Jody Gormley picked it up very low. Gormley forward nicely as far as Kieran Loughran. Loughran gets the free in. Referee has a quick word with Paul Clark. And referee Paddy Russell just explaining. The defender there was in the act of picking the ball up when the boot came in. So here's a chance once again for Peter Canavan.
I noticed Peter is starting to kick quite a number of the balls from the ground today. He kicked most of them from his hands in the semi-final.
That's true.
I think this is a very wise tactic.
And that's another wonderful kick. Sides level yet again. 4 points for Peter Canavan. 5 points apiece. 13 minutes to go to half-time. Well, those who thought it was inconceivable that Dublin would lose a third final in 4 years, I think quickly realised Tyrone have not just come here to be part of the drama. They mean business, and Dublin will get nothing lightly. That's nicely on, and Paul Clark, the player, pulled down by McCallum, and the referee calling back the centre-half back. That high challenge there on Paul Clark. Notebook is out and name has been taken.
Yeah, it wasn't a very, I mean, in fairness, he tried to play the ball. It was more accidental than intentional, I would say.
Who was dismissed, of course, in the Ulster Championship match against Derry in the semi-final when Tyrone were at their very, very best. So it's Keith Barr who's going to kick this one. We've got a variety of free takers for Dublin, and this is drifting away left, well outside its target.
Yeah, it was a bit right of the post for Keith. He'd be better maybe on the left or centre.
So Dublin then with the slight wind advantage, as we keep on mentioning, in this first half. Great catch, nicely taken down by Paul Curran. Did well against Kieran Loughran. Loughran really hasn't got a smell of the action so far. Faye Devlin being challenged there by Mick Galvin. And the linesman looked across at the referee. Linesman Willie O'Mahony. Again, some slight confusion. In the end, it results in a Tyrone ball. Faye Devlin takes it quickly to Fergal Logan. Trying to skip away from the challenges here. Tyrone needing to be a bit tidier. Ronan McGarry was the one who tidied up there. Now the other wing back, Sean McLaughlin. Brian Steins chasing back. Kieran Walsh gets there first, pushed out of his way by Jody Gormley. Still in play, comes back to Fergal Logan. Much steadier performance by Fergal Logan this afternoon. Simply bundled off. This time the linesman is absolutely insistent. Dublin's decision.
Dublin not quite doing as well in the middle of the field today as they did against Cork. you know, there's a lot of broken ball around the middle there today.
It took a while, it seemed to be, in that Cork match to get on top there.
Yes, it took him 20 minutes, you're right, Joe.
Here's McGalvin. Galvin ran into the challenge from Ronan McGarrity. The referee says it was just McGarrity's momentum that carried him into that challenge. Now Kieran Corr, Tyrone's captain. Will he be taking Sam back once again to the north? Kieran Loughran dancing away from the challenges. Good tight control, but then he leaves it behind to Paul Curran. That was an excellent steal by Curran. Now Jim Gavin. Desi Farrell, good scoring chance. And he's put it over the bar. Dublin in front once again. So Desi Farrell here producing a third point in this match. It was nicely set up, Mick.
Yes, it was well set up, and Desi, as I said earlier on, he's deadly today.
3 chances, 3 points taken. It certainly is a seesaw battle, as they say. Dublin then with their noses just in front. Paul Beelan kicked into the inside forward line, and here's Jason Sherlock on a favourable touch that time. Still Sherlock, and who'll complete the race? It's in! It's Charlie Redmond who scored. Injuring himself in the process. He'll make light of that. There was just a little misunderstanding in the Tyrone backline. Jason Sherlock in initially, and Charlie, who's had many disappointments in All-Ireland finals, he was in here. Watch Jason Sherlock just touch it forward under the falling body of McConnell, and in came Charlie, and he was not going to be stopped. Well, a bit like a rugby player racing for the line. Just saw the white of the line, in he came, as if his life depended upon it. He made it his. Well, that's now turned it very definitely in Dublin's favour. Once again, remember the semi-final. How that goal by Jason Sherlock was such a turning point. Here's Paul Clark. Knocked in. Caught by Fergal Logan, who's been so industrious in this match, popping up in all kinds of positions. Getting the support now of Sean McLaughlin. The next couple of minutes now will be very critical for Tyrone. Dublin were hoping to turn the screw if they can at all, but Tyrone need a rapid response. Pascal Canavan trying to win himself the free, succeeding. Takes it quickly down towards Kieran McBride, and in towards the cameras. Appeals all around, but it's going to be Dublin's ball.
We could see a change very quickly here. This fellow Loughran, who's thinking Paul Curran, is having a dreadful game, and Paul Curran is absolutely dominating here at half-back, and he's going forward all the time.
Well, this is where that last piece of action resulted in our cameraman, Paul Daniel, very nearly ending up the wrong side of that. Here's McCallan once again. Tyrone stung by that Charlie Redmond goal. McCallan looks in a little bit of distress. Well, it is that unmistakable figure of Matt McGleenan who's being prepared on the far side. Mick Deegan has had the name taken. But as Mick O'Dwyer was mentioning, Kieran Loughran, of course, the obvious player to come in at wing forward there would have been Adrian Cush. Here's Jody Gormley. Back out towards Stephen Lawn. That's heading towards Hill 16, to the jeers of the Dublin fans. It's Dublin still leading by 4 points.
Yeah, Tyrone would need to take all of those chances when they get them, and they're not quite moving as well as they were earlier on. But as I said, Paul Curran is having an outstanding game at right half-back.
And it seems like just a matter of moments before Art McGrory will make the change. Jody Gormley fists it down to midfield. Took Stephen Lawn on a roving commission once again. They leave just 2 inside forwards there, McBride and Canavan. Kieran Corr. Well, it's a very poor quality ball inside towards Peter Canavan, who really needs the ball lowered in front of him if at all possible.
Lawn has been switched there with Loughran, I think. He's come out to wing forward.
And Matt McGleenan is preparing to come on. His play continues, not on just yet, holding that precious little slip of paper. Peter Canavan breaks it down, but only to himself. He's lacking support up there. Paul Curran, outstanding so far. Here's Keith Galvin. And Jason Sherlock, with a huge part to play in the Dublin goal. Sherlock showing great maturity in just his 5th championship match. Here's Jim Gavin from round Towers, on towards Jason once again, couldn't contain it. It's McCallan instead for Tyrone. Locating Ronan McGarity. They were an inexperienced half backline at the start of this championship, but they've gained in maturity as the seasons progress. Paddy Moran guilty of the push there on Dinky McBride. And now the change can be made for Tyrone. Matt McGleenan is coming in towards the referee, Paddy Russell. And the player going up, Kieran Loughran. So in the reshuffle, from what we can gather so far, Stephen Lawn has come to left half forward, and it will be Matt who will be moving inside, Matt McGleenan. Having a distinct height advantage there on Keith Galvin. Peter Canavan to kick. 4 minutes to go to half-time. And almost inexplicably, he's missed it. Just his first miss.
Yeah, but the game is going away from Tyrone at this minute, and you know players are under pressure now, and that was one, of course, that Tyrone needed. But I mean, of course, most players anyway will miss the outfield.
It was a gamble on their part, of course, to have left McGleenan off in the first place.
And how they let McGleenan and Cush off in the first place, I can understand it, because Cush is a marvellous player.
Well, I think he may just have that injury. Perhaps there's 10 minutes in him, I'm not sure. We'll have to wait and see. The second half will tell that, no doubt. Paul Curran setting up another attack with Paul Clark roaming all over the field. Back to Curran once again. Kieran Corr in vain pursuit. But here's Curran. He's a marvellous footballer, embellishing a wonderful performance in this final with his first point. And Dublin now lead by double scores. 3 minutes to go to the break.
Yes, Paul Clark is having an exceptional game here. He ran on to this one and he was straight through. From the moment he got it, he had his mind made up that he was going to get a score, and he banged it over from about 40 yards. A great score.
Paul Curran at his very best there. In midfield, it's taken by Paul Beelan. They've all got a massive lift by that goal. They took a while to settle the Dubs, but settle they certainly have. That's Stephen Lawn. Well, back there he's causing Dublin very few problems from a scoring point of view. Here's Paul Clark. And that deep ball producing nothing. McConnell restarting. Again, it's Fergal Logan running tirelessly all over the park. Leland tried to close him down. Pascal Canavan to Matt McGleenan. First chance of getting in the action, fouled.
Tyrone are taking too much out of the ball. That'd be more advisable for them to let it go first time.
Some more direct tactics perhaps will pay off. Here's Kieran McBride. McBride making that incision there, producing the foul, producing the free kick. And that's exactly what they need, players who can take possession and run at the Dublin backs. Here's Peter Canavan. A vital kick, this one, to keep them well in touch, heading close to the break. 5 points for Canavan, all of them from threes. 4 points the margin.
Yeah, the wind has died down a little bit now, George. You just watched the flag at the railway in there, and I think the wind has died a little bit.
And our friend, of course, is still up there next to the national flag. There he is, dangerous position, and into the bargain he was smoking as well. Here's Kieran Corr. In towards Peter Canavan, back it comes in towards Jody Gormley. Now Stephen Lawn, advancing with some purpose but running into a cul-de-sac. Kieran Walsh. Dublin seem to have more space in the Tyrone half of the field. Here's Jason Sherlock, outside of the boot, good ball. McCallan does well against Desi Farrell. Farrell picks it up the second time. Chance of a score here. Falling perhaps to Jim Gavin. And Gavin knocks it over the bar with great confidence. There's a greater purpose in this Dublin attack right now.
Yeah, this was a great score again. Desi Farrell contested it and won it well and laid it back. And a great score, well taken. But then again, earlier on, it was Jason Sherlock that started that move.
Dublin creating far more chances in this first half. 17 against 9 for Tyrone. But now Tyrone needing perhaps a late score in the end of this first half. Dinky McBride beaten by Mick Deegan, not standing on ceremony, knocking it away. Obviously touched a Tyrone player. That's Kieran McBride. Playing in just his third championship match. Here it is again. And he fell down onto that ball. That's the final whistle of the first half. Dublin took their time to settle. Tyrone made by far the better start and were 3 points up before Dublin got going. But then that critical goal towards the end of the first half, credited to Charlie Redmond, and that certainly set Dublin on their way. And they go in at half-time, leading by 5 points. Dublin finally to deliver. It's Dublin 1-8, Tyrone 6 points.
Is the Tyrone chairman, Declan O'Neill. Declan, obviously you'll be disappointed to be behind, but what about the game as it went so far from your point of view?
Well, we're very disappointed with the goal, Tony. The goal was a bit of a slip-up, you know, but we tend to lose possession there when we have good possession, but we're not concerned at this stage. You know, our tactic was to try and stay with Dublin at this stage, and hopefully, you know, the second half we'll finish the better team, but we're still very, very hopeful that we get back into the game. And 5 points down, but it's not the end of the world. We're still there, and we're going to come out firing on all cylinders this half.
McLean came in already for you. Would Cush have been an option if he was fully fit?
He probably would have been, yeah, but at this stage the idea was to use Matty first, but Cush is still there, and there's still plenty of good talent in there on the bench.
And you're still thinking of using Adrian Cush?
We would still be thinking about it, yeah, very seriously thinking about it.
Okay, Declan, thank you.
Not at all, Tony, not at all.
Yes, fighting words from the Tyrone point of view, but my goodness, it's certainly not looking too good from them from a neutral point of view, one has to say. The Dubs very much on course for that All-Ireland title. We'll talk about what we've seen in the first half after this commercial break. Yes, as I said, dangerous place to be in Croke Park on this particular Sunday afternoon. Let me go to my panel again. We have, of course, still with us Moirtin McHugh and Sean Boylan with us. Moirtin, your thoughts on that first half?
I think it was Tyrone started very well, but they've shown a lot of nerves. They're losing a lot of possession, and they're not getting the ball into Peter Canavan, and they're overplaying the ball. I think Dublin are actually, from the first 10 minutes on when they settled down, are actually hunting better in packs, and they're leaving more space for Jason Sherlock. And I think Jason Sherlock is actually playing very well today. From a Tyrone point of view, they're going to have to try to get more ball into Peter Canavan. They have none of the forwards to score from play. Peter has got 5 points from frees, and Jody Gormley and midfielder got a point. So they're going to need more than that to win in All-Ireland. I think that they'll need the first 10 minutes, second half again is going to be important to them. But I think what they're doing is they're going to have to stop losing possession of the ball. That's the most important thing from a Tyrone point of view. Dublin will be happy enough. It's interesting to see that Charlie Redmond's not taking the long free kick, so he must be carried into him, and they made a decision that Paul Clark and Keith Farrell kicked them.
Mentioning losing possession of the ball, we have an example of that kind of thing. Now, the scores were level when this particular incident happened, Moirtin, and then in a few minutes everything changed for Tyrone. Let's take a look at this, because they won possession of this ball.
Yeah, they had possession of the ball. I'm a firm believer that a game can turn on a simple point. They had a possession of the ball, Kieran Loughlin had the ball here, and the sides are level, 5 points each at this stage. Good tackle by Paul Curran, but these forwards shouldn't lose the ball like that. And right away the back line has been pulled out because they expect they have possession of the ball. Goes to Desi Farrell, who's having a good match and takes a good point with his left foot. The goal comes immediately afterwards. The game turned on that. From Tyrone could have had a point at the other end and be ahead. Instead the ball went down the field, and that was really at a very important stage for Tyrone.
I have to say, Sean, from a neutral point of view, if anybody needed the goal in the first half, it was Tyrone. But the Dubs manufactured it very, very well.
They did, yeah. They played brilliantly, and I'll tell you, the use of, you know, they've had 6 different players scored. They've been moving very well. Desi Farrell is opening up the middle. Himself and Jason they're cutting railroads through the Tyrone defence, and the rest of the Dublin forwards are capitalising on it.
I think we have that goal. Yes, here it is. Let's have a look at this now, Sean.
Yeah. Come along. Jason chases after it, goes after it. I thought Finnmark could have spread himself a little better. And who comes along with Charlie to bury in the back of the net. But again, it was Jason chasing a ball that he might have gone for it. You know what I mean? And that's the difference. We saw a similar situation later on with Paul Kern, who put a ball over the bar. Kieran Carr was chasing him, and he stopped chasing him. And you've got to chase for everything. And if you stop for 1 minute, you're going to be gone.
Okay, well, it's been tough on Tyrone, I suppose, the first half. Dublin doing everything that you would expect of them if they're going to be All-Ireland champions. Briefly, before we go back again to our commentary, Sean, from what you've seen after the 35 minutes, how do you read it now?
The way I read it at this point now, Tyrone are going to have to do an awful lot to get back into this game, because Dublin are just, they're right on top of them. The defenders, as I said before the match, this ability to stop the others creating and stop them playing, and they're doing it well. They're getting the breaking balls in the middle of the field, and they're dictating the thing from start to finish. Now, Tyrone, there's a lot of fellas out there on that Tyrone team. They've got to start taking on the mantle. You know what I mean? The outplays have got to go. They've got to go for it at this stage. And if they don't, Dublin just wipe them aside.
I'd say in the Tyrone dressing room at half-time, Orchie, there were some hard words for Mark McCrory and from Eugene McKenna, because they have work to do here, let's be honest.
Well, I think that they have a lot of work to do. They realise that a lot of players, as Shannon just said, are not playing well in the Tyrone team. Matty McGleenan is definitely the introduction of Matty McGleenan. He's Martin Keith's captain. I think that they might try to get high ball into that area where he might get a flick goal, which is good. But Tyrone is going to have up their performance. But a fair play to Dublin. Dublin are playing well. They're doing enough. The same thing in the Cork game. It took them a while to settle. But I think Dublin in the dressing room will think back to the Derry game a couple of years ago when they were then well ahead of Derry as well, and Derry came out and won the match. So it's making for an interesting second half. But Tyrone is going to have to up their performance immensely.
Dressing rooms are that one change in the Tyrone team. Brian Gormley is going to be coming into the side, and Stephen Lawn is going to be going off. And from the Dublin dressing room, there are no changes on the Dublin side.
16. Second half gets underway. Brian Stein straight away into the action. Again, a high challenge there. Stein's on the ground momentarily. And let's hope it is just momentarily. He was certainly hit with a crack there as he came out. It's Brian Gormley challenging him. Down he went. Pascal Canavan was in there as well. It was Pascal Canavan who caught him. Steins is okay. Keith Barr takes the free kick towards Desi Farrell, shouldered by Ronan McGarity. Peels all around. It's going to be a Tyrone ball. Brian Gormley opting to leave it behind there. Seamus McCallan left-footed forward towards Matt McGleenan. Can big Matty make a difference? Fergal Logan. Tyrone needs scores early in this half. That's in towards Kieran McBride. Tried to scamper away from Paddy Moran. And Moran has been having a very turgid afternoon so far.
Yeah, as I said there just before half-time, the Dublin full back line are not playing well today, and if they can get the ball in quickly, and Tyrone could come back. They have the aid of the breeze at this present time.
But they certainly need a bigger spread of scores as well. 5 points so far for Peter Canavan, and just 1 point from play, and that from Jody Gormley. So here's perhaps the start of the comeback. Needs to be on target, and is. 6 points for Peter Canavan from Eric O'Keefe. Taking the acclaim of the Tyrone fans. 4 points between the teams. Well, Dublin, as we'll recall, made a very sleepy start to the first half. They can't now afford to allow an energised Tyrone team to creep back into them. Well taken by Paul Beelan. Good distribution back down there as far as Paul Curran. Stolen here by Brian Gormley. One of the stars of some great under-21 teams at the start of this decade. Kieran Corr knocks it in. Nicely inside for Peter Canavan. Again Kieran Corr taking up the momentum of the attack. Back to Canavan once again. Another good-looking kick, and it sails between the posts and it's over the bar. And there are just 3 points and a solitary goal separating these sides. He really is an outstanding footballer.
No doubt McCrory must have got to the Tyrone team inside. Yes, this was a marvellous score from Peter Canavan. He created it first, and then he got it back and banged it straight over the bar. This man is an exceptional player, and if they get more of the ball into him, and they're doing it now in the second half, they're playing the ball in good and low, and that's going to help Tyrone.
So now what's going to happen? Paul Beelan touches it down towards Paul Clark. Deftly back. Paul Curran winning the free kick. Pat O'Neill roars out the instruction towards Jim Gavin, I think. Desi Farrell trying to get away from Seamus McCallum. Still annoying the centre half back. Right on the end line towards McGalvin. Comes to Jason Sherlock instead. Nice sidestep. Great block down there by Fergal Logan. A wonderful intervention by the midfielder, is back there augmenting his back line. Free out to Tyrone.
It'd be more advisable for Jason to take his points, but I think he's over obsessed with the idea of getting goals. But he had a go that time, but he should have taken his point.
Faye Devlin down there attending to Fergal Logan. This is Jason scampering away from the challenges. That was a wonderful block by the Tyrone number 8. I think Jason was looking for the whites of Finbar McConnell's eyes and dreaming about some further glory. It would of course have been his 3rd goal in the championship.
Well, he played a big part in the goal that Dublin got here again today, Joe. You know, he kept after that ball, and that was a great goal, and that was the goal that changed the game.
The physio down there is Bob Glanville. The referee has been speaking to Finbar McConnell, and indeed done more than that, is taking his name. I think there was a fist into Jason Sherlock, hence the booking. 3 names taken so far in this final, 2 for Tyrone, 1 for Dublin. This was Jason once more. And what happened immediately after this is the interesting point. We perhaps don't see it there, but the umpire and referee certainly did. Bob Glanville, the physio there, attending to Fergal Logan. Now remember, Tyrone have already used up 2 of their substitutes. There's still a degree of concern about that leg.
Somehow, Joe, I think he's going to recover.
When you're playing in an All-Ireland final, I think you recover and discover wonderful healing qualities. Nobody wants to go off. It's a wonderful platform on which to display your talents and your skills. If you're a senior football, you dream about coming here. So McConnell then belting that out to Matt McGlean, and a wonderful catch by McGlean, and players peeling right and left of him. Stopped there by Paul Beelan, but not a fair shoulder to shoulder into the chest, Paddy Russell explains.
Hard to understand how anybody can leave the likes of McGlean and then cush off any team, you know. It was a marvellous fetch there.
Well, when does a gamble become a tactic, or a tactic become a gamble?
It's tactics and tactics there, don't you already?
Here's Peter Canavan, and that's gone over. The gap is down to 2 points. It's very manageable. Peter Canavan's 8th point. A terrific contribution, 8 out of 9 points.
The very same thing happened Dublin in the semi-final. They dominated the game for long stages and they left Cork back into it. If you remember, Kavanagh went through and he nearly scored a goal in the finish. And Dublin have stopped playing at the moment.
I tell you, this performance by Canavan is a Frank McGuigan-like performance if he gets quality ball. Good fetch by Beelan. He's working very hard out of midfield. Ambitiously kicking it ahead. Nobody there except Sean McLaughlin. Now Chris Law. That's a free. Sean McLaughlin pushed to the back. Peace restored. Play to continue. Faye Devlin, the taker of the free kick. I'm sure he'll have some nightmares when he watches the video again of that Dublin goal after 26 minutes of the first half. Mick Deegan Nicely down to Jason Sherlock, a lovely transfer into the arms of Paul Clark. Clark hitting it high, 20 metres out from the Tyrone goal. Desi Farrell foraging. Good work rate by Farrell, and that's a great point. A 4th point of the match by Desi Farrell. Jason Sherlock involved in the distribution. A good angle kick by Paul Clark, but wonderful finishing by this man here.
Yeah, Paul, he's having an exceptional game today, Farrell. He's deadly accurate, of course, and if he gets the ball into his hands, he rarely misses.
And he's prepared to work hard as well. 4 chances for Desi, 4 points. Back here is Keith Galvin, looks a little nervous. That's McGleenan trying to brush aside Brian Steins, but fouling him. Steins was going down to pick that ball up when McGleenan came in.
Keith Galvin is having a very, very shaky game there in the corner.
There are a number of nervous players in that Dublin full back line, which Tyrone will certainly hope to exploit. Just a goal in it. Keith Barr, great tension about still. Pressure on the Dubs to end their losing sequence in the final. Pressure on Tyrone to maintain the sequence of Ulster wins. Here's Brian Gormley. Tyrone looking for their first ever All-Ireland title. That's McGleenan taking it down to Jody Gormley. Paddy Moran out first time for the ball. Canavan allowing him. Well, Canavan was being double challenged that time, and Moran got out ahead of him. Here's Paul Curran. It's a tight situation. Jason Sherlock is pushed. Dublin get the free kick. Dublin with 18 frees so far awarded to them. And Pat O'Neill in there with some words for his players. This is what happened once again when we watch Charlie Redmond go in there with Fergal Logan, exchanging some daily pleasantries. And the referee, what is he doing? He's sending him off, I think. Charlie Redmond's being sent off. The goal scorer earlier on in the game for that headbutt there on Fergal Logan. Dublin are down to 14 men. I think that's what the referees decided. Charlie collided there initially with Fergal Logan, then an attempted headbutt.
Yes, but Charlie had got the free at that stage, and there was no need whatsoever.
Well, he's not sent him off, has he? Charlie's still on the park.
Very lucky to remain on the park, I can tell you there, Joe. Very, very lucky.
Well, he's had the name taken. Well, he's had so much misfortune in All-Ireland finals, it would have been a dreadful way for him to finish up this match. So correction then, both sides at full stretch still, 15 against 15. Pascal Canavan now, low ball inside towards his brother Peter. Here's Keith Barr. Barr spreading the play neatly ahead to Mick Deegan. Deegan picking up Charlie Redmond, very definitely part of the action. Towards Desi Farrell. Going back there is Chris Lawn for Tyrone. He's tripped. In comes Paul Clark. It really is hotting up now quite considerably. We have some news on the sideline from Tony O'Donoghue. Tony.
Of the Tyrone team, he tells me that Paul Donnelly is ready to come into the play. Fergal Logan has a very bad ankle injury. He was out to see him, of course. He strapped it earlier this morning, and Fergal Logan has been given 5 minutes. We'll see if it works.
So that would be the final substitution as Paul Clark has his name taken. This is where we watch Chris Lawn go down on the trip from Desi Farrell. That's where Paul Clark came in and the booking resulted. Well, there was a potential nightmare a few minutes there for Dublin and for Charlie Redmond in particular. The referee.
Yes, the referee would want to get hold of this game now. It's just getting slightly out of hand. There's so much at stake here, you know, for Dublin today, and they're going to really go at it now from here in.
Having a chat with Willie O'Mahony, who's also the standby referee. He's gone back to talk to Charlie Redmond again. Did he in fact send him off a few minutes ago, and Charlie continued? This is very confusing. I've never seen anything like this in an All-Ireland final. I think he has sent him off. So Dublin are indeed down to 14 players.
I'm telling you now, Tyrone, this will put it up to Dublin now. When it's often the team, you know, often play better when they are down to 14 men.
Well, you know what happened in '83.
It's a big misfortune, of course, for Charlie, because Charlie has contributed so much to Dublin football over the years.
Oh, it's a dreadful way for Charlie to finish this particular match. But Tyrone now have the chance. 3 points behind. Paul Devlin kicks it into Peter Canavan. Lovely turn by Canavan. And the tight control not quite tight enough. Back there's Paul Beelan. What a match he's playing. Here's Jim Gavin. So now it's up to the 14 men of Dublin to roll up the sleeves. Kieran Corr. In '83, it finished 12 against 14. Good ball inside there. Kieran Walsh goes down. John O'Leary making the save. Well, I have to say, Mick O'Dwyer, I can never recall an incident like that where a player stayed on for about 3 minutes after he was effectively sent off.
Yeah, I thought he had put him off all right over, but then he had a chat with the referee and he remained on, so I can't understand it. Something I never saw happen before.
Pat Gilroy's about to come in, but not just yet. Referee hasn't had the little slip of paper. Fergal Logan drops it in. Now Paddy Moran. Perhaps that inside back line of Dublin, their full back line, will now realise the crisis in which their team is suddenly placed.
As a matter of fact, Dublin are at 6s and 7s at the moment. If you just look at the other end of the field, there's only 4 players from the halfway line in the Tyrone side at the present time.
Only 15 minutes gone in the second half.
But of course, Dublin have won games with 14 men before. I didn't tell you, George. So this is going to be a real test of their character today. But I mean, when you get a free like Charlie had got on that occasion, there was no point for any retaliation. That's the reason why he was sent off more than anything, I would say.
Real crisis now for Pat O'Neill. Keith Galvin has been substituted.
Yes, Keith was having a bit of a nightmare there in the corner, and I said that earlier on.
So Gilroy is on. It's Brian Steins who's gone back into the Dublin full back line to mark Matt McGleenan. Paddy Moran continues on Kieran McBride. Gilroy's into midfield on Jody Gormley. Meanwhile, here's Desi Farrell. Can he be the match winner this afternoon for Dublin? Straight at the goalkeeper, Finbar McConnell. Now Ronan McGarity. Quick look up. Pumped into midfield. Paul Curran misjudges the flight of the ball. Beelan back in there. It's Beelan and Gilroy now at midfield, and the pulling of Paul Beelan. Brian Steins and the referee now going across to Matt McGleenan. What's going to happen here?
This was a very late tackle by Matt McGleenan. He'll be lucky to remain on the pitch here. You can see, as you can see this here, look, the ball was played when McGleenan hit him.
And that's Brian Steins pulled down by Brian Gormley. Steins now on the full back line, as we say. And the referee, I think, content with just the name taking. Tyrone have 15 players, Dublin 14. Dublin lead by 3 points. Dublin's Dr. Pat Duggan in there. And the loose man in the Tyrone team, the extra player, is Paul Devlin, their number 2. So how will they use the extra player, Art and Eugene?
Well, I noticed they're keeping him back in the fence at the moment. That'd be better if they play him in and around the middle of the pitch, I would say, Ger.
Keith Barr with the free kick. Paul Clark breaks it down towards Pat Gilroy. Now Desi Farrell trying to skip by Seamus McCallum. Not an easy thing to do. Clark plays it back to Gilroy once again. taken down by the Tyrone captain, Kieran Corr. Lots and lots of free kicks. It hasn't been a free-flowing game, but it's been particularly intense.
Well, I suppose Charlie wouldn't have been kicking, he didn't seem to be kicking the longer piece today, so he must have been troubled by that leg, but Paul's kicked a very good one earlier on, and this one from the left-hand side here, he should be able to put this one over.
Just strikes me that Paddy Russell was in charge in 1990 when he also sent a player off. He's done it again in 1995. So Paul Clark shaping up to this one. 40 metres out, that's going away right. Can they keep it in play? They can. But broken down only as far as Faye Devlin. Jason Sherlock. Back to Mick Galvin, hasn't scored so far. It's Gilroy. Back to Paul Curran. All a bit tight, all a bit uncertain and unclear. Here's Jody Gormley, profiting by that pass from Pascal Canavan. Tyrone hunting in packs. Skynes belting it forward to Desi Farrell, the one player who gives them direction in the forward line. Knocked in towards Jason Sherlock, but Jason couldn't hold it. Dublin's first wide of the second half, they're 9th in all there.
There is a very, very strong breeze blowing from that end, and you know it's not too easy. And Desi went onto his left leg to kick that one. That time I think maybe he'd have been better plied by turning to the right and tapping it over.
But he's the one forward there today who certainly is causing problems to Tyrone in terms of he's the man who can get the scores.
Yes, he is the one player, and he's really accurate, and he's the player they should be trying to find more often than any other.
So everybody else has got his autograph, so here comes the referee. No chance of a kiss here, I think, ref. So yet another name has been taken.
You'd wonder what it was taken for, though, Joe, wouldn't you?
Well, we haven't had a score now for 12 minutes. Nicely broken down by Paul Beelan. Paul Curran on towards Jason Sherlock. Knocked over by Chris Lawn. Free to Dublin.
Dublin are pulling all their players out around the half-hour line and out around the centre of the field at the moment. There's about 6 Tyrone players in the inside there, and there's very, very few Dublin players in there. Dublin have gone back quite a lot in defence. They did the very, very same thing against Croke.
So the turn of Paul Clark once again, a point from a free so far, urged on. And that's gone just to the right. It was a difficult enough kick. It would have been a difficult enough kick for Charlie as well, I can tell you. But still 3 points between the teams. Paul Devlin knocked forward towards Matt McGleenan. There are times in the last 5 minutes when it seems to me that Dublin have the extra man. Beelan. Cut out here by McLaughlin. Fed forward by McCallum. They're rushing it a bit. Paul Donnelly there alongside Eugene McKenna. Paul Curran, 13 minutes left. Touchdown by Seamus McCallum. Follows it on himself. Now the loose player we were telling you about, who is Paul Devlin. He's the extra man. Ooh, cops a high one there from Paul Beelan. He's become quite indisciplined during the second half in particular.
Yes, it has become very physical at this stage.
Jason Sherlock initially putting in the challenge, and then it was Beelan.
I think Paul Devlin used the hand himself before he was hit.
That's the face there of Seamus McCallum. It may be cramp. Play continues. Paul Curran, tidy and economical in everything he does. Desi Farrell. A real lone predator up there. He can cause so many problems. Mick Galvin now had such a great semi-final. Good ball in. McConnell fisting it out as far as Ronan McGarity. A dangerous moment. And again, the player pulled down there is Sean McLaughlin. Kieran Corr now for Tyrone, who trail by 3 points. Paddy Moran drops it into the arms of Matt McGleenan. Matt Bride just a little bit too far ahead of him. Still the momentum of the attack maintained with Pascal Canavan. Now Fergal Logan. Peter Canavan. 8 points so far for his side. Fergal Logan now trying to kick this one. Made a hash of it, however. Expecting the challenge to come in, and in it came from Kieran Walsh. And now Paul Beelan. Paul Curran. Beelan and Curran have certainly run themselves into the ground for Dublin this afternoon. We've got some further news, I believe.
Yes, the Tyrone midfielder with powers coming off. Fergal Logan is going to stay on the field. Jody Gormley will be coming off, and Paul Donnelly will finally make his entrance into this All-Ireland final.
And here he comes. Thank you, Tony. In fact, it's Seamus McCallan who's going off because there was an injury there, and I think they may have changed their minds very quickly about that last substitution. McCallan goes, and Jody Gormley is still very much on the field. Meanwhile, Dublin also taking the chances of warming up one of their substitutes.
So Tyrone have now used up their 3 subs at this stage. So we won't see Adrian Cush coming on the pitch today.
I had a lingering doubt all along that he simply wouldn't make it, and it's a great, great pity. Keith Barr with a free kick. Nicely fetched in the air there by Faye Devlin. Back to McLaughlin. And that's going to be a free in.
It's unbelievable how Tyrone are giving away possession and they have an extra man on the pitch. That's the second occasion they punched the ball out over the sideline.
Well, I think he threw the ball up to himself and then started fisting it away. So effectively fouling the ball there. So free from an eminently kickable position here for Paul Clark.
This is a very, very vital free now, this one, and if Paul puts this one over, I think Dublin will go on and win, but if he misses it, it will put a lot of pressure on them.
Dublin, by the way, have brought on Robbie Boyle, the sub we saw there warming up, and Mick Galvin is the player he's replaced. So a big championship occasion for the Erin's Isle man as we watch this kick come off the post. And who responds quickly? It's the free man Paul Devlin, free momentarily. So how will the last 9 minutes of this game pan out? Dublin chasing as if their lives depended upon it. Not wanting to be recognised as a team of losers that loses vital matches, All-Ireland finals and semi-finals. And Tyrone having the extra man, extra effort called for. Move forward, I think, is what Pat O'Neill is saying. Matt McGleenan against Brian Steins. Steins back in defence now. McGleenan kicking, will it curl inside the right-hand post? Not sufficiently. Just Tyrone's first wide of the second half, a telling statistic in its own way. So just the Charlie Redmond goal dividing the teams.
Paul Clark had 3 frees there to put Dublin way out in front, and he missed the 3 of them, so Charlie has been a bit of a loss from that point.
Well, in terms of quality, it's left an awful lot to be desired, but the issue very much still in doubt. Jody Gormley going down to pick that ball up. In came the boot of Paul Beelan. Quickly taken to Kieran Corr. Fisted forward to Kieran McBride. Quick look at the post, trying to go around Paul Clark. Got to take too much out of it, really. Tyrone, you feel, should be letting the ball in quickly. Paul Devlin foraging. This is Pascal Canavan. And it's gone to the right. Is it to be their day?
Yeah, but Dublin, in fairness, are hunting in packs at the moment, and they're putting a lot of pressure on the player in possession. You saw there where there was a great block down by a Dublin back, and Tyrone aren't getting any time on the ball at all, so that's a good point. That's a very, very good thing for Dublin.
Well, the last score in this game was in the 9th minute of the second half. And poor old Charlie not able to take any further part. Sent off during the second half in somewhat bizarre circumstances. Free kick to Dublin. Very, very high work rate, as Mick O'Dwyer was saying.
Yeah, but the game has become very, very ragged during the last 15 minutes. It's become over physical, and it's not. There isn't any good football in it.
Well, it won't be remembered for an awful lot of good football, as you suggest, but if Dublin finally end a barren spell of 12 years, they'll not worry too much about that, I think. Keith Barr to take the free kick on his own 65-metre line. Dropped in deep towards Paul Clark. Back there foraging is Ronan McGarity. Now Faye Devlin popping up at right half-back. Taking it away there from a number of Dublin players, but in the end it is Jim Gavin who gets in there. The pilot with the air corps flying through there to win a free kick.
I think it would be very, very advisable for Dessie Farrell to kick that from his hand there. You know, they're not having any look from the ball from the ground here, so but Clark is still having another go.
It'll be Paul Clark to hit it. He's just 1 from 4, 1 point out of 4 attempts so far. Certainly Charlie Redmond is a big loss where free taking's concerned. But Dublin's grit and determination over the next 5 minutes may see them win their 22nd championship. Is Sam on its way back to the Liffey? Clark curls this one, but not curling it sufficiently. It's still there for the taking.
So go back over the All-Irelands, you'll find that all teams that won, they always had a good place kicker, and Dublin were failing in that aspect today.
Dublin have only scored 1 point during the second half. Tyrone have only scored 3. But Dublin hanging on for dear life. Here's Dessie Farrell. Good ball forward towards Jason Sherlock, and he get a touch here. Out comes McConnell. Strong, resourceful goalkeeper. Now there's no time to delay. Paul Donnelly. Well, they need that ball knocked in well. Kieran Corr holding on somehow. Still Kieran Corr. Dublin back there in huge numbers. They brought back 12 players behind the ball. Free in. So Peter Canavan opting to kick this one from the hands as Kieran Corr carries out running repairs. There's 2 points between the teams. Canavan has scored 9 points. 8 out of 9 from frees. He just missed 1. 2 points the margin. It'll be a very, very edgy and nervous last 4 minutes. Vinnie Murphy may be ready to come on.
That's the difference, actually. Canavan, every time he gets a chance from a place ball, he puts it over, whereas Dublin has missed them all.
Tyrone now surely will be thinking about a goal. If they can manage somehow to get in there and steal this crown. Robbie Boyle. Boyle scampering away from Faye Devlin. It's Fergal Logan who got back goal side. Boyle once again, strong figure. Little Brian Gormley takes it. Gormley for Tyrone, challenged by Dessie Farrell. Oh, that's a high challenge there, but not a particularly dangerous one on Paul Devlin. One back again. Here's Keith Barr, the 14 men of Dublin, leading by 2 points. Paul Clark, here's an important kick. And it's over the bar! Paul Clark gets just Dublin's 2nd point of the second half. Dublin have a 3-point lead. I make it about 2.5 minutes left, not including injury time. Tyrone have been frustrated time and again. Here's Fergal Logan, holding it up once again, slowing it somewhat, then releasing it into McBride. It comes to Kieran Corr. There's a man ahead of him. It's nicely forward there, and the referee says free in. That was a great run forward there by Paul Donnelly. Pat O'Neill out on the edge of the field, sun in his eyes. It'll be back to a 2-point difference again if this goes over. That's Paul Donnelly in a very advanced position, close to being inside that rectangle. So a conventional 13 metres free. Canavan inevitably to hit it. If it goes over, it's his 10th point. Just instructing Brian Gormley to move back. Lazily struck and over the bar. 10 points for Canavan, 1 from play, 9 from frees. The gap, just 2 points. A minute, 25 seconds still to go.
Yes, and I would say there will be a little bit of extra time as well, Ger. The one man now, if they can get the ball to Canavan, he's the one man maybe that could pull off a victory here. You know, he could quite easily get a goal if he got the ball in quickly.
One slip, one twist, one miss. That's all it takes. Possession now, crucial here. Jody Gormley takes it down to himself. Brian Steins must judge this well. He does so. Paul Curran. Lobbed into the half-forward line. Won back there by Ronan McGarrity. McGarrity takes it back from Sean McLaughlin. Now Kieran Corr pushes it ahead confidently to Pascal Canavan. Back to Jody Gormley. Tyrone building up ahead of steam here. Brian Gormley running into a phalanx of Dublin players. Comes back again towards Ronan McGarrity. In they go. John O'Leary just about holds on. But there's a player inside there. It was Kieran McBride. He was pushing, and it'll be a free out to Dublin. If you have a weak heart, I don't envy you right now.
There was one that nearly went right in already. Came a great ball in quickly here. And John O'Leary went up for it and nearly went away from him. Seemingly the Tyrone man was definitely in the square there.
Absolutely. It's a free out to Dublin. It's in injury time. Dublin, who last won the Sam Maguire Cup back in 1983. 12 years on, the 14 men are now in injury time, but there are just 2 points between the teams, and Tyrone can still do it. Paul Donnelly, wrestled and brought down by Gilroy. Free, 45 metres out. Will Canavan up to put this one over the bar?
I think he will, yeah. There could be still a chance of getting another one.
So it's now at the discretion of referee Paddy Russell. Yes, he's going for the point, lobbed in and put over. 11 points for Peter Canavan. What a contribution, but does he finish on the losing team? The next few seconds will tell the story.
This man, Peter Canavan, is a complete class act. He's one of the best forwards that I've seen around for a long, long while, both from play and from place balls.
He has certainly illuminated a final where there was too much pulling, dragging, freeze and so on. Vinnie Murphy is on for the last few seconds. Charlie and Mick Galvin there ready to acclaim the rest of the squad. So Vinnie Murphy comes on and Desi Farrell makes way. Dublin created 25 chances, Tyrone 18 chances, second half, or the game overall I should say. John O'Leary the kick out. So now, what's going to happen here? Only a point in it. Fergal Logan has it for Tyrone. Are we to have a first draw since 1988? Here's McGarrity. McGarrity wrestled down by Paul Clark. Free kick quickly taken. Kieran Corr is unmarked. Corr, will he go for the score? He's pumping it in. McBride comes, so does John O'Leary. Fists it away. And as far as Peter Canavan touches it on the ground and it's a free out. The Tyrone fans think that they've scored an equaliser. So does Sean McLaughlin. But the referee's whistle has sounded, and delight will turn to agony for Sean McLaughlin. This is where the ball was fisted away very well by goalkeeper John O'Leary, and the ball was touched on the ground there.
Normally that would be allowed in most games, you know, and it's most, it was hard looking away that Peter Canavan slipped, because if he got it in his hands it would have been the equaliser anyway. But that could be Tyrone's very last chance now.
Well, on such decisions are matches sometimes settled. Pat Duggan wondering whether Paddy Moran's okay. We've now played 3 minutes of added time. There can't be much more. Dublin lead by a point. Keith Barr kicks it, and Dublin are the All-Ireland champions from 1995. They did hang on. They were down to 14 men after goal scorer Charlie Redmond was sent off in somewhat bizarre circumstances. Pat O'Neill has finally triumphed. John Costello celebrating with him. Delight, delight, delight. I wonder what he has to say.
It must be a marvellous moment at last for Dublin.
Yeah, great thrill.
Tell us how you feel at this moment, Pat.
I think the message, Tony, is that he feels absolutely brilliant. So many disappointments, so many heartaches over the years, but heartache this afternoon was Tyrone's lot.
After Charlie got sent off, our backs were to the wall. But in fairness to our fellas, the work, the tackling, the commitment today was superb. Well done.
Well done, Fran, thank you.
Fran Ryder, one of the selectors there with Tony O'Donoghue. They're absolutely delighted. So Sam Maguire finally rests by the Liffey. By just a point, however. Dublin won 10, Tyrone 12 points. And Mick O'Dwyer, when you look back at that and you say that last point by Sean McLaughlin was ruled out because of the foul of the ball by Peter Canavan, Tyrone could have had a second day out.
Yeah, and I think it would have been only fitting that Peter Canavan would have been the man that should have got it, because he had an outstanding game. And 9 times out of 10, as I said, that would have been allowed, you know. I mean, our rules are a little bit loose in that aspect. I always heard that when you were on the ground and if the ball was near you, that you could punch it away.
Jim Brogan of the Dubs, congratulations, at last Sam Maguire is back in the capital.
It is, Tony. Thanks very much.
What about that game? It was an incredible second half, a controversial second half.
Well, it was, but I mean, it's over now, and the Sam is back.
You've been waiting long enough, is that all you can say to me?
Well, that's what it was about. It was about winning today, and the lads did a business, and fair play to them.
Bobby Doyle, your feelings at this time?
I'm absolutely thrilled. I'm delighted for the lads. They worked very hard over the last 4 years. It wasn't a pretty game. We would have liked to win in a more convincing style, but a win is a win, and at the end of the day, that's all that matters. We won. We had the man short. They worked extremely hard, every one of the lads who were put on, and we are absolutely delighted for them.
What about that sending off of Charlie Redmond? It was very strange, to say the least.
It was quite strange when you see the incident that happened the far side of the field and there was only a booking for it. That's quite strange.
And 23 minutes or so in the second half without a score from either team.
Very unusual in Gaelic football, extremely unusual, but a very tense situation. I don't know, I didn't realise that that's the way it was, but Paul Clark got that very important point for us, which is a super point.
Well, not to pour cold water on a marvellous victory for the Dubs. You've been waiting a long time.
Yes, indeed. You know, as I said, I would have prepared if it was delightful football, but they seldom are. You know, victory is a victory. At the end of the day, we're absolutely chuffed, and hopefully we can roll on from this and maybe win another one or two.
Well done, Bobby, thank you. John Costello is here as well. John, what will this victory mean for Dublin football now?
It's great for the propagation of Gaelic games in the city. Gaelic games are never at a higher level, and this will be a very great encouragement to all the club officials, all the voluntary coaches that we have in the schools and all that, and it's tremendous, and it's a great fill-up for the association in Dublin here.
So it gets to 7 a minute if you want to stay quiet. However, our sympathy goes to Tyrone for a great display for the first time for many years in Croke.
His second title. His second title.
Yes, an ale-biting finish with victory and unrestrained joy for the Dublin team and their supporters. Well, tonight the Dubs are relaxing at their victory banquet, and as you can see, it's a very different atmosphere there than the dejection they had to suffer in 1992 and, of course, again last year. But for all of the Dublin delight, this year it's been the turn of someone else to suffer the pain of defeat. In a game lost by just a single point, there always has to be a thought for the might-have-beens of it all. Now, Jim Carney is at the losers' after-match function, talking to Peter Canavan and Eugene McKenna.
And hello and welcome to the Burlington. Well, I can tell you that here the heart of Tyrone football beats strong and true, because while there's disappointment all over this vast room. There's also a great sense of loyalty and a sense of pride, and almost 800 people have gathered here, well, not to celebrate, that's not the word, but to show that they're still with their favourite team and their favourite players. Eugene McKenna, that's a thunderous ovation. The big crowd here still think a lot of this team. I'm sure you do too.
I certainly do. I was very proud of them today.
Now, Eugene, your co-manager Art McGrory has decided to take the rest of the night off. I guess he has headaches after all that happened here today. But earlier on RTE Radio, he did express a lot of strong feelings about the game, about what he perceived to be a lot of time wasting during the game and a lack of football in the game. And he was also bitterly disappointed that the point that Peter set up in the end wasn't allowed. Do you share those feelings?
Well, I wouldn't like it to be sour grapes, you know, but the referee probably would realise that he didn't have as good a game as he could have, and he probably won't include it in his CV application for the next All-Ireland final. But having said that, you know, it was a very disjointed second half. Anytime we got a head of steam up, Dublin were able to frustrate us, and I think their good experience probably told.
And that last incident, when you might have snatched an equaliser and a second bite?
Well, yes, but I suppose realistically we shouldn't have been dependent on that one. We had enough chances earlier and enough possession, but disappointing.
If I could, you don't, as a manager, I'm sure, like to single out players, but we do have to take away from this All-Ireland final the memory of all those wonderful points by Peter Canavan.
That's right. Peter is a remarkable talent, and he's something that the game deserves in Ireland, and he certainly is intended to stay in the game, I hope, and he's a big asset to Tyrone and to football in general.
Ladies and gentlemen, Eugene McKenna. Eugene, let you finish your dinner. So as Eugene goes to finish his meal, we're joined now by Peter Canavan and by Captain Kieran Carr. Peter, if I could talk to you just before we meet Kieran. Peter, very hard luck on the result of the match, but that last incident, hours later, what do you think of it?
Well, we still didn't get the point, and that's all that matters now. At the time, I'm not too sure. I thought maybe the ball was bouncing, and when Sean kicked it over, I thought the point stood, and I couldn't really believe it now when the ref had give a free out.
So you were confident when you punched the ball in your mind that you were doing the right thing?
That's right, yeah.
And it was with the closed fist?
I think it was, Jim, I think it was.
Right. Now, Peter, apart from that, a great performance by you and by the lads, heroic in many ways all through. It is being said all around the room here tonight that you are significantly a younger team than most other major challengers around the country.
Some people might be saying it was a fairly good performance, but I think the boys here know themselves that wasn't a great Tyrone performance. We know we're capable of much better, and I think in the years to come we'll play much better than that and maybe be more successful.
Ladies and gentlemen, the pin
of these players, as Chris Brown was saying there.
Ladies and gentlemen, the pin
of these players, as Chris Brown was saying there, will develop into the senior players capable of making a mark in Leinster football. All right, here's confirmation then of the two results.
Well, I suppose from a neutral point of view, it would have been put down as one of the worst finals in recent memory. That won't worry Dublin at all. But for everybody else, it was a rather disappointing final. The first half was reasonably good, but the second half degenerated into a very, very scrappy affair. But Dublin made hard work of winning a game that I thought they were the better team for most of, apart really from the first 10 minutes of the first half and maybe a spell at the start of the second half. Dublin really controlled the game with their half-backs, midfield and half-forwards very much on top. And, you know, they should have won the game, I think, with a little bit more in hand, because Tyrone really relied on Peter Canavan to keep them in the game. And I thought they didn't let the ball into him fast enough. They tend to overplay the ball. And Dublin punished them because they tackled and ran and chased everything. And I think the better team won.
And the Temple, no view of it?
Well, you mentioned bizarre at the top of the programme, and certainly you could associate the word goober with this game, because it was grotesque in the sense that 56 frees, it was an error-ridden game. Paddy Russell did not contribute to being a good game. He had a very, very poor game, and I would suggest probably, Paddy, for the rest of the programme, maybe you might switch off your television. He was very poor. It was unbelievable in terms of fitness. The fitness level seen there today, particularly at the senior level and particularly from Dublin, was exceptional. And remember, this is from amateur sportsmen, and there are many professional teams that could match that level of fitness. Certainly Jack Charlton could have done with a few of them in Austria. It was bizarre when, after the sending off, both the referee and the linesman actually forgot that he had actually gone off the field, Charlie. And it was unprecedented in the sense, I suppose, that it has never happened in my living memory that a team who wins in All-Ireland actually only scores two points in the second half. Dublin deserved to win. It was a very, very poor game. It's always better to win a bad game than lose a good one. Dublin won't be complaining at all. It's funny, out of the last 12 years, I suppose the two worst finals have been 83 and 95, and Dublin have won two of them.
Strange finals, certainly. There's no question about that. We've talked, gentlemen, about some incidents. We're going to address those particular incidents now. And I suppose the first one, Colin, that we will look at is the sending off, eventually, of Charlie Redmond.
Yeah, well, Charlie won't thank me for looking at this, but I suppose this is a quite unbelievable.
He might thank you for looking at it, because he might be trying to figure out himself, apart from everybody else, what happened.
Yeah, well, initially Charlie is fouled, and I think Fergal Logan here, is one of the main culprits in this. Now, Fergal Logan wouldn't be branded a dirty player, but he goes in on Charlie, first with the boot and then with the knee. And Charlie's reaction is really easy. He goes for him with the head, and Charlie shouldn't have done that. So, Fergal Logan really contributed to that incident in a big way. Then Charlie is booked by the referee, who now appears as if he's sending him off, or he's either sending off Pat O'Neill, who's close by. Then he signals that he is sending him off for obvious use of the head. Now, Pat O'Neill and Charlie appeal to his better judgment, and then there's another confab with the linesman here. So it was very hard at this stage to figure out exactly what had happened. He sends Pat O'Neill off. He has another word with the linesman. It looks as if they're maybe changing their mind. Then the referee comes back, and in full view of Charlie, indicates that he's throwing up the ball. Now, at that stage, everybody assumed that Charlie hadn't been sent off, and myself included, because he was standing in front of the ref. Play continues, and when the ball comes back down through Mick Deegan, Charlie gets the ball about 30 seconds later, kicks it down into the corner. Then we have this incredible situation of the referee going over and talking to the linesman again, and then coming over. I think you can see him saying to Charlie, I can't, Charlie, I can't. Charlie appealing to him. So, I don't know, the whole thing was quite unbelievable, in the sense that a player who was obviously supposed to be off the field is then in possession of the ball a few seconds later. So,
well, there's Charlie, and he's listening to us at the moment down in Jury's Hotel, and I'm sure he's wondering how to think of it himself.
Well, I felt very sorry for Charlie, because Charlie has contributed a lot to Dublin over the last few years, and the last 10 or 12 years. And in Dublin's greatest moment of triumph, it would have been nice if Charlie had to be on the pitch.
Sure.
I'm sure he probably, in a sense, doesn't mind, but he would, I'm sure, have loved to be on the pitch at the end of the game for Dublin's greatest triumph, because he's seen a lot of bad days.
OK, well now, it raises a couple of other issues, apart from just Charlie's own predicament at the particular time. If Charlie Redmond had been sent off in that incident and obviously played on for 3 or 4 minutes, Dublin were then playing an illegal player. And according to the rules of the game, they forfeit the game.
Yeah, well, I think Charlie obviously felt that he wasn't sent off, because no player would stay on the pitch if he had to be. Probably just as well he didn't stick a ball in the net or over the bar in that time, or would have really lent for an absolutely amazing scene. But obviously Charlie didn't understand what was going on. Nobody would stay on the pitch, but you know, if you go to the technicalities of it, you forfeit a match in a situation like that. But I don't think that arises in this case.
I suppose in Charlie's defence, where the mistake was made probably was, Pat O'Neill also happened to be on the field at the time, and when the referee signalled to the sideline, it could have been to either one of them. So I think it was just a genuine mistake, and like I said, Charlie is not a dirty player, and it was very unfortunate.
Sure. OK, well that was an incident of consternation for Dublin. There was an incident of consternation for Tyrone at the end of the match. Let's talk about this one. Well, this is the disallowed point.
Coming out of the ground, all Tyrone people said to me, you're going to have to mention the point, or the disallowed point tonight. It was definitely a hopping ball, and as well Spillane, a man of his word. So as you can see from this angle, the ball comes across. Great interception by John O'Leary at a vital time. Now Peter Canavan was unlucky, he slipped. A lot of players slipped today, but from that angle it's very difficult to realise. But in fairness to the referee, he was very well positioned. If we look at it from behind the goal, probably where Canavan falls, and the ball seems to bounce off his left hand, and I think as he's hitting it that the ball is actually in the air. Now with all poor Sean McLaughlin be remembered a bit like John White, who rode the winner of the National that never was, and Sean McLaughlin will be the equalising point, and in Ireland there never was as well. There's one thing for sure that you can't say, that the referee lacked consistency. Here you had a point where a ball came across, Paddy Moran blocked it, on the ground here. Now, so the referee lacked consistency. That was an incident that happened earlier on. And what usually happens with your average referee in a GA match is that having had the bravery to send off a player, one then tends to give the benefit of the doubt and the 50-50 decisions to the other team, to the team with the man short. And certainly in that incident with Canavan, I couldn't say for definite, and no one can say for definite that the referee was right. No one can also say for definite that the referee was wrong. But under the circumstances, I think Paddy Russell was balancing the books and giving Dublin the break. I think no one would have argued it. I think it should have been allowed, and I think even Dublin would not have quibbled with the fact, and I think a lot of people would have been delighted to see a replay and hoped for a better match from the two teams.
Well, I suppose in fairness Paddy Russell would answer that by saying that his job is to call it as he sees it on the day, and it's not his job to be deciding on whether there should be a draw or a replay or whatever. Charlie Redmond's column figures in our next piece of action as well. Now, he'll remember this one, I suppose, when he looks back on the 1995 All-Ireland final much more happily than the other incident we saw.
Yeah, well, as Charlie's a Mead man now, I'm delighted to be able to show him in a good light. So the goal came about too from a lot of messing on the part of Tyrone, who lost possession in the middle of the field. A great ball in by Paul Beelan. Jason follows in behind. Chris Lawn lost him, and Jason is very, very brave there. He could have broke his leg going in on that ball, and Charlie is there using his strength to hold off Paul Devlin to get the touch into the net. But I think a very bad mistake there by Faye Devlin. Should have gathered that ball. Now, Jason Sherlock could have made mincemeat of there from both sides, but he keeps going for it, and he really creates that goal. Again, we can see maybe Finbar McConnell a bit slow getting out on it too. It's nice to be able to have a touch in from 3 or 4 yards for a goal in an All-Ireland final.
Sure, yeah. We've talked obviously about this match, and there's no question that it wasn't the greatest game of football, but Pat, nonetheless, there was a lot of things to admire, particularly in Dublin's play. They showed a lot of determination, and particularly when the chips were down against them.
Dublin, it was a poor game, like I said, but I mean, Dublin did score some great points, and they played, after the first 10 minutes, they played some excellent first touch football, moving the ball well, great support, great teamwork, and showing great maturity. Here we have two clips of two Dublin points where it probably sums up everything that happened in the this is Paul Clark kicking the ball across the field here. Now, they showed great alertness to all the breaks, you know, and this was a great point by Desi Farrell. Desi's a great game today, 4 points, kicked points with both his right and left foot. I thought Dublin erred in not allowing him to kick a few frees off the hand in the end. Here we had Paul Clark doing something what the Tyrone forward half hours failed to do, and that was have the conviction to go for a point, and this was at a vital stage of the game. Dublin 2 points ahead, and it was a great kick from 45 yards out. Tyrone insisted all throughout the game on trying to carry the ball and overhaul the ball, and it was a grave mistake, because they had in Peter Canavan and to a lesser extent Kieran McBride, 2 players inside in the full forward line who were capable of creating a lot of havoc, and they needed to get the ball in fast, and Tyrone didn't. They overheld it, they played it short, and it was to their detriment in the end. Dublin played the ball quickly, they showed great teamwork, they showed unbelievable fitness, and they showed in the last few minutes there great maturity, holding possession and great defence.
Colin, for the moment, let's take a final word about Tyrone and this All-Ireland final from their point of view. People said going into this, expert opinion said they'd lose this game by 10 points. They lost it by a point in the end and had a chance, as we saw, to get an equaliser.
Yeah, I think that when Dublin look back on it, they said they should have won it a little bit easier, but Tyrone come out of the game with a lot of credit. The big problem for them, of course, is whether they'll be able to get out of Ulster next year. They have a young team, and they really should be improving if they're able to keep the team together. They have a few weaknesses. They still have problems around the middle of the field. If they were able to get enough ball into McBride and Canavan inside, they were causing trouble for the Dublin full back line, which looked quite shaky during the game. But the big problem for them is to get a midfielder, a couple of good midfielders, and to be able to get out of Ulster next year, because they have enough good, young, talented players to win an All-Ireland in the next few years. But whether or not they're able to make that big step up again next year is another thing, because it's so hard to get out of Ulster 2 years in a row. We saw that now. It's gone back, what, 14 or 15 years.
I'm sure Meath people will be hoping that it's hard for Dublin to get out of Leinster as well.
Well, absolutely. Even though I think most Meath people would wish Dublin well, because, you know, the way that football had gone into schools in Dublin, which I am fairly knowledgeable on at this stage because we've been playing Dublin schools quite a lot.
Sure.
And the football level had disimproved significantly in the last 10 years, and I think Dublin coaches are working hard on that. Things are improving in Dublin. I think this will give a great boost to underage football in Dublin.
There's no doubt that it will. All right, so those are the opinions then of the panel. But when all the debate is done, Dublin are still the champions and enjoying every minute of it, I have no doubt. Well, let's find out now exactly how much they are enjoying it as we join their victory banquet and say hello to Ger Canning.
Thanks very much indeed, Michael. Welcome to Jury's Hotel. The Dubs are celebrating, that's for sure. With me here I've got Pat O'Neill. Pat, the year of the biddies, Biddy Early and now Biddy Mulligan satisfied?
Yeah, well, Biddy's still there. She was there before. She's still there with a lot of pride behind her tonight.
What struck me towards the end of that game was, gosh, how tough it is to win the championship.
Oh, it's getting tougher every year. I mean, the amount of work that has to be put into it and the amount of commitment from players and officials, it's unreal now.
A day of controversy as well. How did you see those controversies? Our panel were just mentioning there, had you been sent off?
Well, I wasn't playing, actually, yeah. As Paul Curran said to me earlier, you know, it wouldn't be the first time. But I don't know, there seemed to be controversy. I really didn't understand what was going on.
At what stage did you realise that Charlie had been sent off?
Well, I thought my own impression at the time when he came across from the far side of the field to the dugout, that there had been a second incident, and that was it. But it doesn't appear that way now.
And when our panel were looking back at that very late point that wasn't for Tyrone, they were all growling here saying the ball was not hopping, it was on the ground, dead on the ground.
You'll always have controversies, you know, particularly if they're close matches, but you know, there's only one victor at the end, and it's Dublin tonight.
Sum up your feelings. You have a great backroom team, you've worked hard together, and it hasn't been easy. You must be very proud.
Well, I think we've expanded the frontiers in terms of backroom management, but when it comes down to it, you know, it's about the 15 or 18 players that you use in a match. That's what it's all about. The backroom there is to support it, but it requires a lot of expertise and commitment.
Fine little question. Any patients coming to see you tomorrow? What should they do?
Well, they might be coming, but I won't be there.
Pat O'Neill, Dublin manager, ladies and gentlemen.
Well, as you can see, Marty, I'm here with a friend who's a male. I couldn't get any girl to go with me. So if you know any, Marty, you know I know you with the old girl. So if you know any, I'd like to say hello to Mikey Galvin, Mick Galvin's son. We're the same mentality. So I thought we'd say hello to him.
Jason Sirlock, ladies and gentlemen.
Called by, I think it was Paul Devlin. And Fergal Logan had no part in the incident that he came in and tried to injure me. I took exception to that. I made a very rash challenge on him, a challenge which let down my fellow players. I feel very sorry for that. I felt that the referee's actions after that were unwarranted. I didn't deserve to get sent off. If anyone deserved to get sent off, it was Fergal Logan.
Did the referee send you off at that point? What did he say?
The referee he didn't say anything to me, just pointed to the sideline. And then he had a conference with the linesman. The ball was thrown up again, and I was still playing on the field. I was right in front of him, as Colin O'Rourke says, and he said nothing to me. So I assumed I was still playing in the game.
Originally, it seemed like there was a free to you. Then there was the hot ball. Did that, in your mind, say to you, referee has changed his decision?
I thought the referee had changed his mind. I heard a conference or a conversation between the linesman and the referee, which the linesman spoke up for me and said that I didn't headbutt him, that I went into him, and I didn't headbutt Fergal Logan. I think Fergal Logan might back me up on this. The referee made a decision, and I can't change that.
You continued playing for about 3 minutes. What do you remember next?
Getting sent off.
That's the simplistic way. What happened? The referee came right across the field to identify you.
He came over to me and he says, "You shouldn't be here." And I says, "No, I failed a fitness test yesterday. Why shouldn't?"
Yes, we will indeed be back.
I failed a fitness test yesterday. Why shouldn't?
Yes, we will indeed be back with the Dubs very shortly indeed. We were just noting in studio here, in actual fact, how well turned out the Dublin players are. But then I suppose with the sponsor they have, why wouldn't they?
Dublin side. John O'Leary played as usual. A brilliant captain and great leader. Keith Barr, I thought, had a brilliant game, as he has had all year, without seemingly to do anything too spectacular. And up front, I thought Jason did well. I also thought that Desi Farrell had a brilliant match, and that Paul Clark as well worked tremendously hard for the cause, as did all the Dublin team. But when it came down to it, I thought one player from start to finish, when things were going badly for Dublin the first 10 minutes, he was playing great football. When things were going well, he was playing great football. When things sagged a bit in the second half, he was still there doing all the simple things. Scored a brilliant point as well. And if Charlie's not from Meath, well, I think we could claim there's a little bit of Paul Curran from Meath. His father Noel played with Meath in 1967. So Paul Curran, man of the match for the 1995 football final.
Well, there he is, Paul Curran, our man of the match for 1995.
Waterford Crystal, and congratulations, you didn't let it fall. And we've got 2 watches here as well as usual, his and hers. You'll have somebody to give that to?
Yeah, I was warned before I came out that it's trees a curtain. Sorry, Leila.
Congratulations on a great performance. You must have enjoyed yourself.
I'm not in agreement with these awards really. Today was a team effort, and all year has been a team effort. I'm delighted for the team, and this is for everybody in the room. Thanks very much.
Well done. Well spoken. Just before I let you go, and you've had a great day, and the team's had a great day, Kieran Walsh has had his birthday today. Did you know that?
I didn't actually. He's 32, 33 probably.
And I've heard tonight of a proposal by a centre forward.
So believe. Actually, on behalf of all the team and everybody in the room again, I'd like to wish Desi and Noreen the best of luck. Fair play to them.
We have still got some business to do here, ladies and gentlemen, but for now, the man of the match for the football final 1995, Paul Curran. Well done, Paul. Well done.
Well, as everybody knows, the Bank of Ireland were the sponsors of this year's All-Ireland Football Championship, and what a success it has been. Each county will get a certain amount of money, but obviously the All-Ireland champions get the real bonus. Tonight, here on the Sunday game, I'm delighted to introduce Brian Goggin, the General Manager, Area East for the Bank of Ireland, and John Bailey, the Dublin County Board Chairman, who will be presented with a cheque for £30,000.
Well, sincere congratulations to Dublin. £36,000 in all. The good news, fellas, is that, of course, 5,000 of that goes towards a holiday fund. Thanks to Brian, and thanks to John as well. Marty.
Indeed, tonight, of course, got it right. Tonight is a great night for Dublin, and no better man to sing a song to put us out completely is John O'Leary, the captain of the Dublin team, who's going to sing on this very special night. Big round of applause.
What'll I sing? Oh, Dublin can be heaven with coffee at 11 and a stroll in Stephen's Green. Come on. There's no need to hurry. There's no need to worry. You're a king and the lady's a queen. Grafton Street's a wonderland, there's magic in the air, there's diamonds in the lady's eyes and gold dust in her hair. And if you don't believe me, come and meet me there. Where? In Dublin on a sunny summer's morning.
Yes, well, I suppose, in fairness, it has to be said he is a very good goalkeeper. And on that note, we must leave you from the Sunday game, not just for tonight, but also for this season. Well, obviously, our coverage of sport on RT television and our coverage of Gaelic games doesn't stop there. Next Sunday, it's the turn of the country's top camogie players to hit centre stage at Croke Park. Kilkenny meet Cork in the senior match, while it's Limerick versus Roscommon in the junior final. And you can see those games in a camogie special next Sunday, Network 2 at 9 o'clock. Well, what a summer it's been. It's one that they won't forget down in Clare for many a long year. But it's also been a year when a big weight has been lifted off the shoulders of the Dublin football team. Sam will be in the Mansion House tomorrow evening. Well, mind you, it was, of course, a heart-stopping last few minutes if you were a Dublin supporter at around 10 to 5 this afternoon. Perhaps no one felt the strain more during those moments than Charlie Redmond, asked to view most of the second half from the sideline, asked twice in actual fact. Well, exasperation, though, was turned to sheer delight by the final blow of the whistle.
Such decisions are matches sometimes settled. Pat Duggan wondering whether Paddy Moran's okay. We've now played 3 minutes of added time. There can't be much more. Dublin lead by a point. Keith Barr kicks it, and Dublin are the All-Ireland champions from 1995. They did hang on. They were down to 14 men after goal scorer Charlie Redmond was sent off in somewhat bizarre circumstances. The Bank of Ireland Football Championship is won by Dublin. Biddy Early is resting happy in the heavens with Biddy Mulligan.
With the result, the tempers are just freeing a little bit. Charlie Redmond is the man in trouble. Pat O'Neill is there as well. And this is sensational. Here's what it was about. You can construe that any way you wish, but it's not Charlie's style of play, I can tell you that. And I think anyone who knows him in Gaelic football would agree with that sentiment. Which is by no means condoning anything, but you have to go on a man's CV and career record. Anyway, it's a plain, ordinary name take. 11 minutes gone on the half. The temperature is rising. It's Canavan. Kieran Walsh on him. Good work by Walsh then. Good work by Barr. Carried on by his clubmate from Erin's Isle, Finglas Mick Deegan. To another Erin's Isle man, Charlie Redmond. Up the line looking for Farrell. Covering player is Chris Lawn. Foul by Farrell, a trip. And then Paul Clark arrived. And Paul Clark being pulled aside, and he'll have his name taken as well. Now the linesman has called the referee all the way across the field to tell him about something else that was obviously going on behind his back whilst the attention was being given over there to Chris Lawn. Now, just this little spell now, tempers are frayed, fellas are trying to gain a little piece of advantage, and he's coming over towards Charlie Redmond. Now what's going on here? It looks like Charlie Redmond is being sent off. Yes, he is. Charlie Redmond has been sent off. Matt Medlina with Brian Steins.
Lena looks for the post. Will it curl in enough? The answer is no.
Game has become very untidy. Both sets of players now realising that they're entering the last 10 minutes or so, and Dublin are trying to hold on desperately to a lead, and it's a long, long time since we've seen a score from either team.
Batted down by Curran to Beelan. Inside to Farrell. Looking inside for Sherlock. Well, that was certainly Mutt and Jeff there, all right. Finbar McConnell out to Paul Donnelly. Donnelly Tyrone. Draws in Paul Clark. Good run this by Donnelly. Runs into the challenge from Pat Gilroy. The move is carried on by Kieran Corr. And Corr is floored. Great piece of play by Paul Donnelly to initiate that Tyrone attack. Donnelly in this sort of humour could lift the whole team, Peter.
Yes, indeed he could. He is a player with a great awareness, and he made a great run there. Corr then made a great run, resulting free, and a chance for Canavan.
Peter Canavan. Yet another one. 9 points in this All-Ireland final for Peter Canavan. The record individual score in the final is 2 goals and 6 points by Jimmy Keaveney and Mikey Sheehy, and that's the unmistakable figure of Vinnie Murphy. Brian Gormley here, Tyrone. Paul Devlin. Mick Deegan. Keith Barr. Paul Clark. Tyrone have backpedaled. Big one for Clark and a great point. A wonderful point by Paul Clark, which leaves that goal in it again. 3 points between them, 3 minutes to go.
Yes, a marvellous score by Paul Clark, and such an important score, and it now leaves Tyrone needing possibly 3 points or a goal to tie the match.
Fergal Logan gives it to McBride. McGarrett gives it to Corr. Corr gives it to Donnelly. Referee is right on the spot. Tyrone have scored only 2 points from play. So this should be child's play for him. Referee sorting out Curran, Moran and McBride. And Canavan puts it over the bar. He scored 5 points in the first half, and he's now scored 5 points in the second half. Paul Curran's clearance into the hands of Ronan McGarity, the engineer at right back for Tyrone. Pascal Canavan, Jody Gormley, Peter Canavan, Brian Gormley runs into a sandwich. Gets it back again to Ronan McGarity. Drops it in along by John O'Leary. It's a free out. It's a free out. We are now crossing over the 35-minute mark. 12 years since the Dubs won the All-Ireland. Tyrone have never won it. 2 points between them. Brian Gormley picks up the pieces. He to Paul Donnelly. Donnelly pulled down by Pat Gilroy on the 45-metre line. Peter Canavan comes for it. Does he know that time is up? Is a point good enough? Or will he lob it in the square and try and manufacture a goal? It's over the bar. Canavan has done it again. 11 points for him in the final. He's only 1 point away from the individual scoring record. Will all this wasted time be added on? Therein lies the tale. 1 point between the sides. Paul Beelan tried to get the knock on. It's Fade Devlin with it for Tyrone. He to Fergal Logan. They need it up around the goal to give a scoring chance to Canavan. It's Ronan McGarity, and he's fouled. Gets it up to Kieran Corr, the Tyrone captain. Faced by Keith Ball across the face of the goal. John O'Leary gets a hand to it. Here's Peter Canavan. It's touched on the ground. That is not a score. No score. No score. 3 out to Dublin because Peter Canavan handled the ball on the ground.
No, I think he slipped just at the worst possible moment. The ball went behind him and he was forced to try to scoop it back just there. And I think that certainly was a free kick.
Keith Barr's kick out. Referee's blowing. The referee has blown, and Dublin are the All-Ireland champions. A very competitive game, and Dublin win it by a single point.
Well, no one can deny Dublin their victory, given all they've been through over this past 4 or 5 years. And indeed, given the circumstances they found themselves in today, losing their star forward Charlie Redmond so early in the second half, they showed played with great resilience, great determination. Tyrone were unlucky in one sense. They played extremely well, but on the day, honours, I think, deservedly went Dublin's way.
Yes, and when the Tyrone people are looking back on the match, they'll ponder this fact. They were only 1 point away from Dublin on the final score, but only 2 Tyrone men scored. One of them got 11 of the points. Final score, Dublin 1 goal and 10 points. Tyrone, no goals and 12. Sam is back in the capital.
For myself and for probably the team, it's been the team captain, it's so devastating. The boys' management, the backroom team, put so much work into this last 2-3 years. And I suppose to go out and lose it in such a way, we didn't do ourselves justice in the first half. We came out in the second half and gave it all we could. I mean, we had most of the possession in the second half for 20 minutes. Couldn't get the scores, made some stupid mistakes. But the only thing I really didn't know, we're a young team. We're going to have to learn from that. The boys were spoke a wee bit in the change room there. The boys, understandably they're down, but I know they've got them to pick themselves up. I can tell you, we'll be back in months' time for the National League.
Never gone through a sort of 15-20 minutes like that in my life where you're sitting on the edge of glory and it just goes away from you. Can't describe it.
Now what's going on here? It looks like Charlie Redmond is being sent off. Yes, he is. Charlie Redmond has been sent off.
Very difficult to play with an extra man sometimes, especially in the sort of mayhem out there, and to find the man each time. So I knew we were still up against it. We were still a couple of points behind, but we did our best, and our best wasn't good enough, and we'll have to credit Dublin.
The thoughts there of Tyrone captain Kieran Carr and Fergal Logan. Well, earlier this evening I also caught up with Art McCrory, and this is what he had to say about today's game.
I think that we didn't play well enough to win it. Dublin had more of the play. I thought that, we just didn't click as a team. Now the lads went out and they tried their best. Every man made as much effort as possible, but we didn't click as a team. Our teamwork simply was not good enough on the day. Having said that, we still were good enough to steal a draw at the end of it, but that did not materialise.
You think you would have deserved a draw?
Well, I think we would have deserved a draw, but then again, I'm a Tyrone man.
You were disappointed with the referee's decision with the last point?
I was disappointed, yes. I think it's disappointed would be the word for it. I felt that it was not consistent with some of his other decisions, in that there had been a number of times the ball had been touched fairly close to the ground, and he had simply let the play run. He had kept the play going. And then, in isolation, he picks this one out and gives a foul for it.
I suppose, too, if you had got the draw 2 weeks on, who knows, we could have had a superb All-Ireland final, because it was by no means a good game today.
Well, for the neutral supporter, I would say it was not a good game, but I would lay a lot of that at Dublin's door, because once they got a few points in front, up to half-time, they simply went out in the second half and closed up the shop. Now, their delaying tactics in the second half, I think, posed questions for the authorities as well, because I would be quite certain that there may have been about 12 minutes, between 12 and 15 minutes of continuous play in that second half, which is supposed to last 35 minutes. Now, he did play 3 minutes extra time. I thought he could easily have played 10 minutes extra time.
Now, Art, of course, we also had, I suppose, the ridiculous situation of Charlie Redmond being sent off and allowed to stay on the pitch for 2.5 minutes.
Well, Charlie was sent off, and I thought he was sent off quite clearly, but, a number of players and officials remonstrated with the referee at that stage, and I suppose Charlie thought that he got a pardon. And when the referee eventually spotted him on the field, he put him off. But there are rules to cover that as well, I believe. You know, if a player sent off and doesn't go off, I think that, you know, the penalties are fairly serious.
But overall, Art, your reaction, I suppose that's the decision. You talk about the penalties fairly serious. That's for, I presume, a matter for county boards and people like that to consider and stuff like that.
For the officials, yeah.
It's nothing you want to get involved in, but overall, you must be terribly disappointed. There's Tyrone, 86 beaten in the final, 92 in the league final, and now this in 1995. We're alongside me now, a resident expert, Brian, in 1995. We're alongside me now, a resident expert, Brian McInniff. Brian, by no means a great All-Ireland final today, but there's an awful lot to talk about.
Yes, I suppose the game would be more noted for its controversy than its football, really, Adrian. And I suppose the greatest incident of consideration is the final free kick, or not a free kick against Peter Canavan, on which the game hinged. It could well have taken Tyrone into a replay, and I would feel very disappointed with the referee's decision at that particular time, because before that there was an incident where a Dublin player handed the ball on the ground and he got away with it. And it's a matter of conjecture at this stage whether the ball was still bouncing when Peter Canavan made contact or not.
A lot of people would suggest the ball still was bouncing, but other people would say, no, the referee, at least in that one, was correct. But overall, you weren't impressed with the performance of Paddy Russell?
No, I think Paddy, on reflection, particularly his second half performance, left a lot to be desired. The game was noted more for its dragging and pulling in the second half than good football, and it was impossible for either side to play, giving the standard of refereeing was out there today.
Art McCrory touched on that in very strong terms. He felt that Dublin were allowed to pull, to haul, to hold back for long periods in the second half, and referee Russell allowed them to do it.
Well, you see, what happens really, Adrian, there, when a team is penalised by the loss of players such as Charlie Redmond today, a referee is inclined to, and let's be fair about it, to favour the side that has lost the player. And I would have felt that a few more bookings by referee Russell, and a lot of that pulling and dragging would have disappeared in the second half from the Dublin side. But in saying that, there was a certain amount of pulling and dragging from Tyrone as well, Adrian, I have to be fair.
There's been a lot of talk tonight as well, too, about objections and things like that, because Charlie Redmond played 2.5 minutes when he was being sent off. And I suppose if you look at it, in the cold light of day, in a league match, in an ordinary game, if that happened, the game would be replayed.
Well, a team at club level within a county structure would definitely have a case for objection, where a team would play on with the 15 men when a man was already sent off, and maybe would incur a fine. So it'll be interesting to see what Croke Park will, how they will deal with it at Central Council.
But now those are all peripheral points too. I think what we have to accept as well is the fact Tyrone played quite poorly, and Dublin, to their credit, worked very hard when Charlie Redmond was sent off. They deserved a win in the end.
Well, to be fair about it, Adrian, you would have to say that Tyrone did not perform as they might. They had their usual lapses, and we could always allow for that, but by and large, taking from number 2 to number 15, you could find that maybe 12 of the Tyrone team playing well below par, and when you have 12 men not playing, it's very impossible to win an All-Ireland final.
Tyrone work hard to get to an All-Ireland final, Dublin work hard to get to an All-Ireland final. You must be pleased too, to the likes of Paul Clark, a fine footballer. He got really what was the decisive score in Croke Park today to win the All-Ireland final.
It was, and I will turn to you at the particular time when Clark kicked that point. I said that would be the vital score. It was a fine point, good enough to win an All-Ireland final, there's no doubt about that. But on reflection, and I suppose Dublin, when they take a look at the performance tomorrow, and having only scored 2 points in the second half, they won't be too pleased with the performance either.
And what about Tyrone? Where do they go from here? The great run of Ulster is over.
Well, you know, Adrian, they're a young side. Let's be fair about it. They've won two All-Ireland under-21s back-to-back. They came out of Ulster in a storm and surprised everyone, including myself. And I got a lot of hassle over the period the championship provided. But they're there, and they're there to be knocked next year. They're in Division 1. They've a lot to play for. And they showed a lack of experience that the 3Ds wouldn't have shown in Croke Park today. So it's a learning experience from them. And no more than Dublin. Dublin lost 3 All-Irelands in a period of 4 years. They're back and they're taking the Sam McGuire today. And Tyrone have that too in for next year.
Now, Brian, it was a messy game in many ways. It must be difficult to pick a man of the match. So who was your choice today?
Well, on the Tyrone side, I felt Fergal Logan had a great first half. And I think the knock he took on the 21-yard line probably hurt him and hurt Tyrone's chances of winning the match. Peter Canavan kicked 11 points, and it's terrible to say that a man kicking 11 points.
Today's All-Ireland final.
Terrible to say that a man kicking 11 points.
Today's All-Ireland final. They'll be hoping, though, that those celebrations aren't premature. Today, the secretary of the Tyrone GAA County Board said they haven't ruled out an appeal against Dublin's win in yesterday's match.
Here's Brian Gormley.
The prospect of the Tyrone County Board now lodging an appeal over the amazing circumstances surrounding the sending off of Dublin forward Charlie Redmond in yesterday's All-Ireland Senior Football Final dominated most of today's post-match analysis. Redmond appeared to get his marching orders from the referee, Paddy Russell, following this incident involving Tyrone's Fergal Lohan.
Here's Paul Curran. It's a tight situation. Jason Sherlock is pushed. Dublin get the free kick. Dublin with 18 frees so far awarded to them. This is what happened once again, and we watch Charlie Redmond go in there with Fergal Logan, exchanging some daily pleasantries. And the referee, what is he doing? He's sending him off, I think. Charlie Redmond's being sent off.
However, moments later, the referee hopped the ball with Charlie Redmond still on the pitch. Some minutes afterwards, however, the Finglas forward again attracted the referee's attention, and this time he was given his marching orders and eventually left the field under protest. Earlier today, Dominic McCaughey, the secretary of the Tyrone County Board, said they would now be considering their position on the issue over the next few days before eventually coming to a decision.
Your view, Jerry, Tyrone's proposed appeal?
Well, I've looked at that, and the referee in the Charlie Redmond situation, he should have followed a certain procedure. Now, if he ordered Charlie Redmond off, and if Charlie didn't go off, well then he would have had to give a 3-minute warning to the Dublin captain or the team official in charge.
In your view, it's unlikely?
It's unlikely, yeah.
Tonight it's the turn of the people of Dublin to celebrate yesterday's victory. Derek Cunningham is in the city centre, from where he sent us this report just a few minutes ago.
By tea time this evening, the party that had started in Croke Park yesterday had moved well and truly onto the streets of the capital. The area around College Green was cordoned off to cater for the thousands of supporters there to meet the Dublin team. The strains of Molly Malone vied with chants for Jason and Charlie, and when he did appear alongside his teammates, the man in the eye of the controversy over Dublin's win got the biggest cheer of all.
Charlie Redmond, ladies and gentlemen!
We win an All-Ireland once a year, and we haven't won one since 1983, and as J.O. said, it's for all of us. We take great enjoyment out of what happened yesterday, but for everyone in Dublin, they've got great pleasure from it, and hopefully this will be the first of many.
Young and old were there to share in the celebrations, and some clearly had their own team favourites. The victory parade was continued with the team travelling on an open-top bus along O'Connell Street.
Meanwhile, thousands of proud Westmeath supporters tonight welcomed home the winners of the county's first major All-Ireland title. The new minor champions received a welcome worthy of a senior team, and they arrived in Mullingar.
They may as well have won the Senior All-Ireland title. Such was the turnout and excitement in Mullingar tonight when the new All-Ireland minor champions returned home in triumph with the Tom Markham Cup. The minor title is the most significant All-Ireland win ever by Westmeath footballers. Before this, a junior title in 1929 was the county's best achievement. Now they're looking forward to taking the Sam Maguire.
It's unbelievable. We never expect anything like this. Yeah. It just shows you the support football has in places like Westmeath, and hopefully we can follow on now and give them more success, because people need this and we love them. And yes,
it's given us the lift that we've been looking for. There's been great coaching going on around the age, right throughout the county, and this is going to give it a momentous leap forward. I've no doubt that in 2 years' time, we definitely will be going for the Sam Maguire Island.
This team had brought a great honour to the county, they were told, at a civic reception hosted by Westmeath County Council in the town park. And to stress their future potential, they were each given Mullingar pewter replicas of the Sam Maguire, tokens to inspire them to bring the real thing back in the next few years.
Eileen Magner in Mullingar tonight. The main news